keep him.
Hey, Shorty. Don't give me that look.
Say hi. Hello. A bit of a family emergency, so his grandfather's gonna come get him. You leaving us?
5 minutes behind schedule.
Yeah, might not be till about noon, but he is. Man.
I've been through it. 3.
When he gets
got
fussy,
3.
can I hand him over to you when he gets fussy? Okay.
Who said that?
My brother has 3.
Oh,
When
yeah.
he told me, I was like,
Yeah.
crazy.
It's a
What
lot.
we're gonna do, we're just gonna be chill, okay? Can you just be chill?
I mean, I'm getting better than 32, I can tell you. She was arriving tonight. I believe so. There was one, I think, postponement on the morning, though. Mr. Page, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Preliminary matter on the AM docket, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Number 6, 518 North Charles Street, Gay Lounge. This matter has been postponed, rescheduled for 10/19/2017 at 11 a.m. All interested parties have been notified as to the new date and time. On the AM docket, case number 1, Dathan Watts and Young Men Lee, HM Enterprise, Inc., trading as Fox Liquors, 130103 North Fulton Avenue. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
Good morning, counsel.
Good morning. JU representing the applicant HM Enterprise Inc. and the applicant Mr. Lee and Mr. Watts.
Gentlemen, would you raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and
Commissioner.
nothing but the truth?
I do.
So you have to speak
Yes.
into the microphone.
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hands down. Thank you. Mr. Yu?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a straight request for a change of ownership transfer of a liquor license that is currently issued to the current licensee, which is the MGC Market Inc., the licensee Jung Nan Kim. Mr. Lee is trying to purchase this liquor store, understanding that this license is only good for 1 year and 9 months. He does have a plan for a restaurant there. He is currently, he has a restaurant called the Banana Restaurant on 25th Street, and he also owns a wireless phone shop on 24th Street. So he's an entrepreneur, and he saw this opportunity, and that he felt that this might be a good investment to secure
This is
that.
currently a package goods store?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, but there's room to expand?
I think it's 301 through 301 through 303. I think it's
Oh, I see.
sufficient space.
Okay. And you say Mr. Lee currently manages a restaurant and also what?
A wireless shop,
Okay.
wireless cell phone shop.
But the restaurant does not have a liquor license?
No, it does not.
Okay. And is he going to be trained in managing a liquor license and all that sort of thing?
Yes, actually, we were planning on getting both certified before the hearing, but the scheduling didn't work out, so we'll definitely schedule one immediately after the hearing to make sure
Okay.
that both are certified.
And is Mr. Watts also going to work there?
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any training or experience in the sale of liquor goods?
No, I was looking at becoming certified through that program, but I did start reading through the regulations.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
What is the name of the restaurant on 25th Street?
Banana House, Banana House,
Banana House, 25th and Greenmount?
Greenmount, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Doesn't your wife also own that restaurant, or no? No. Okay. But your wife owns another bar, and so my question was, what is the relationship between the two of you, and how will you manage your two businesses, both with liquor licenses?
Yeah, I'm going to totally separately the business,
Your
her
intent,
business, my business.
all right, so you're going to keep them completely separate?
Separate.
Will you purchase liquor from her for sale at
No.
your place?
No,
No. And will she purchase liquor from you for sale at her place?
no.
Okay. Okay, the other question I had was on the zoning issue, and you're aware that it's only good for a year, and you say 9 months, and that after that, the liquor license expires, correct? And you understand that?
Yeah.
And you're purchasing this license with that clear understanding? Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right.
So, it sounds to me like I appreciate your investment and time and, your entrepreneurial, and it sounds to me like all of these operations are within a certain area, which is great. But one concern I have, which is similar to Commissioner Moore's, is how do you intend to kind of manage these things? You have a restaurant for you, your wife has her own thing, if I hear you correctly, the cell phone operation, and then this. So it seems like they're all within a certain proximity, but how do you intend to, Mr. Lee, who's going to be primarily responsible here, how do you intend to manage all of that?
Yeah, I have the hire people, and then I have already the 25th wireless, the working, and then just the managing. So I have time, and then the new liquor store, I'm gonna managing putting my all time.
So if I heard you correctly, you have your other operations seem to be managed, and this bar or this packaged goods store, you will be
I will
on the
be there,
ground
yeah.
and be there. This is
Yeah.
your focus.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Okay.
No.
On the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from counsel, and the testimony received this morning, I'd vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve.
I approve as well.
Good luck.
Thank you.
No exhibits.
Gang Shi and Shang Chen, Harry's Liquors, Inc., trading as Harry's Liquor, 3113 Greenmount Avenue. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
For the record, Melvin J. Kanansky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the applicant.
Good morning. Mr. Kadensky, does Mr. Shi have a conflict with my firm?
He's from New York. I don't know.
I don't know. His name showed up. No objection to me participating, or even our non-voting commissioner here to my right? Okay, gentlemen, raise your right hands, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
For the record, this is a transfer of an existing location. It's been there since 1971. Never had any problems with this liquor store, according to Liquor Board. Mr. Shi previously worked up in New York in a restaurant, was a manager, had a liquor license for 12 years, didn't have any problems. He's since moved from New York. He's living with his friend Kevin Chen in Ellicott City. This transfer and subject to buying the property with a SBA loan that's been approved. If and when we go to settlement, he will then move from Ellicott City to Greenmount Avenue and live upstairs. Shang Chen is Kevin Chen's father, who is retired. He happens to be in China visiting relatives at this point. The current owner is going to stay over for a while and introduce him to people. Kevin Chen had a license for 3 years. He's going to help his friend and give him the experience that he needs to run the store. There'll be no changes in the store. It'll be the same. He's going to keep one of the employees that's there. He's taking the alcohol awareness course, took it last night. I don't have the certificate. He will also own the real property at that location.
Okay, commissioners, you have questions?
Did you say that they purchased the building at 3113 Greenmount?
It's pending. We got approval from the SBA. Once he gets approved, he'll buy the building.
Okay, and
He's going to move there.
Now, that's the building right next to the Goodwill. Is that right, or?
Fire department and right.
You're between the
Fire department, right?
you're between the fire department and the Rite Aid?
Not between. It's next to. like, yes,
All right, so let's say we're coming from downtown and we're going north towards Towson. Which comes first, the fire department or Rite Aid?
where you, like, from the, let's say, the street, it's a Green Mountain, right, Avenue. If you coming from the, like, smaller street, like 28 to 30,
Yeah.
and it's a fire department first, then the Rite Aid at the corner.
Okay, and then where are you?
Me, it's a Lex fire department, and there's another building over here, and then mine is over here next to it.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
It's
So
the
you're-
fourth building.
So you're right across, almost right across from Melbus. And you, I mean, I read the papers and there's been a place there since the 1970s, but there's never been any problem, so far as you know?
None in Liquor Board.
None at all, okay. All right, that was my only question.
The only question I have is, on the inspector's report on August 24th, so I know it's been about a month, notes that the trader's license had been stolen from the glass store, and I guess the current licensee, maybe the pending applicant here, was pursuing that. Any update on the trader's license with the comptroller's office?
No, I don't, he's represented by Dason Wee. I can ask that, and he has his own attorney, I don't know him.
Okay, well, yeah, that would be
He'll
helpful.
get his own,
Yeah, okay, all right.
Anything further?
nothing further.
Okay, on the basis of the information contained in the application, proffers from counsel, and the testimony received this morning, I would vote to approve the transfer.
I vote to approve. God, stop.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you.
No exhibits.
Lonnie Abdullah and Bernard Truesdale, Propolis LLC, trading as The Loop Bar and Kitchen, 4238 Frederick Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
For the record, again, I'm Melvin J. Kudensky, representing the applicants.
Good morning. Gentlemen, please raise your right hands.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do,
I do.
Who's Mr. Truesdale?
right here.
And you're Mr. Abdullah?
Abdallah.
Abdullah, thank you. Okay, Mr. Kudensky?
This is a little bit of an anomaly because they're the current licensees at this location. They've been there for 8 or 9 years. The problem is they had to go ahead because of financial reasons and reasons of consolidations of the property, and also getting together and doing some renovations to transfer to their current LLC. While they were there, they didn't have any problems as licensees. They're going to be the same licensees that were on the old license, same operation. They'll need probably 3-4 months to complete whatever they're doing. I think the consolidation has just been recently approved by the city, and there won't be any changes. They'll have maybe 5 or 6 employees, hire people from the community, and so forth.
So it's a bar, right?
Bar restaurant. They do a fair amount of food there. It's I'm going to say Catonsville area. It used to be the loop because it used to be a car loop there, transit loop.
Streetcar?
Close to Mount St. Joe, but I'm going to hold that against them. My grandson goes to Mount St. Joe.
Hey, my son goes there now.
There you go.
What, the Gales, what, when did you get the license originally?
10 years ago.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
So what is the change?
They're changing the corporate structure for financial reasons. And they have to transfer one to another because they originally took it over when they were doing the consolidation. It got much more involved, dollars and cents. They met with the council people about the consolidation, so they had to change it to another LLC.
Okay, all right.
This is just basically a reorganization of sorts.
Similar to that, yes.
And just for the record, I just want to note that the license is valid. You met the timelines. There was a hardship. It was allowed.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so I just want to make sure that.
Yes, sir. We paid, they're just holding it now until we're ready to get started.
Okay, on the basis of the materials contained in the application, the proffers from counsel and testimony from the witnesses, I'd vote to approve the application.
I vote to approve.
I vote to approve as well. One thing, although you've been an existing licensee, I just would again underscore this issue about a BD7 and making sure, it sounds like you serve food, which is good, about making sure that the tavern portion remains open with the packaged goods.
Yes, sir.
And if you look at the schematics, there's really not any place there for selling other than.
It's really more for me, Mr. Kadensky, than it was for you.
He's trying to save you from me.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Come
much.
back on the afternoon docket.
No exhibits.
Renee Kehoe, Spirits West, Inc., Spirits West, 2601 Wilkins Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership. Please come forward.
Good morning, Your Honor and Commissioners. Brian Everett on behalf of the applicants.
Good morning. Would you folks raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
As a matter of a preliminary matter, I have to offer an amendment to the application. The corporate name should not be Spirits West, Inc., it should be RK2 LLC. I believe you have the articles of incorporation in your file.
Okay.
Trading as Spirits West.
It's trading as Spirits West.
Okay. Is that, we're okay with that, Mr. Page?
Yes.
Okay.
Want to submit the amended application?
Yeah, I'll submit an amended application.
Sure.
Okay, and this is an application to transfer from whom to whom?
It's from Spirits West, Inc. to RK2 LLC.
Like the last case, a reorganization, same licensees?
No,
this is a-
different licensees.
Okay.
These are the applicants. They've purchased the business from the former owner.
Okay, and you're Ms. Kehoe?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to be the primary person?
Yes.
Okay, and what is your experience?
I've worked there for 12 years.
Oh, okay. And the gentleman to your,
My husband,
okay.
He's
And
going
is
to be
he-
the manager.
he's going to help me manage us.
Okay, have you also worked there in the past?
Yes, I've worked there in the past.
Okay.
Richard Kehoe?
And how did you get the local priest's approval?
It's our priest for our
Yes,
church.
yes.
our church.
He's
He's a
baptized.
patron?
Yes, he does come in also.
He's also the community association.
Yes.
So,
Wow. Funny he didn't disclose that he's a patron, but that's good.
It goes without saying. Okay, commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
I don't think I have any questions, other than the comment about the BD7. I didn't check out your floor plan.
yeah,
about-
there's no packaged goods section at all. It's primarily a restaurant.
And let me just ask you, out of curiosity, so you've worked there for you said 12 years?
Yes.
So now that you're owning it, are there changes you're going to make that you've noticed over the years? I'm just curious.
A few.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing drastic. It's pretty much kind of run itself. It's great.
Okay.
Little family there, and I love it, so.
Great, all right, good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And you're on Wilkins Avenue in the city, right?
Yes.
So close to the line?
About a mile from Baltimore County.
Okay. Okay, thank you. On the basis of the materials contained in your application, the proffers from counsel, and the testimony received this morning, I would vote to approve the transfer.
I would vote to approve.
I would as well.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
Have one exhibit for the record, Board Exhibit 1, letter of support dated 9/11/2017 from St. Benedict's Church. Thank you.
Hey, Shorty, what are you doing?
He wants to say hello.
Hi.
William Stevenson, Waverly Brewing Company LLC, trading as Waverly Brewing Company, 1625 Union Avenue, Suite C. This is a Class D beer license. Request to add live entertainment. Please come forward.
Gentlemen, please raise your right hands.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Are you Mr. Bauer this morning or the other name?
No, not the other name today. Wait a second. Which one did you bring?
You're Mr. Stevenson?
I'm Mr. Stevens.
Okay, and you run the Waverly Brewing Company, I take it?
Yes, sir.
And it's been open with a tap room, and you want to add live entertainment, is that correct?
Yes.
And what's the nature of the entertainment going to be?
We want to just We want to have some live music, trivia, karaoke. We just want to have the ability to bring in, entertainment into our place, continue to work to be a spot for the community to show up, hang out, try to cover a few more bases, and have that license instead of filing the 12 permits a year that we currently do with the state.
And if you go down Union Avenue off of Falls Road, how far down are you?
You go down the Clipper Mill Road, basically after you stop seeing houses, and then you see more industrial or commercial buildings, and make a left. We're on the left. We're right on the edge of the Jones Falls.
So your music's not going to disturb the neighbors?
We don't have any neighbors after 5 o'clock.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Bauer?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
I just have a question. Are you the same Mr. Stevenson? Oh, you are.
I have no idea where this is going.
You got hurt in was it the toilet bowl races?
He actually died for 2 minutes.
Yeah, because I actually believed that when I saw that on Facebook, that I think, Mr. Bauer, you had announced that he had passed, but
And he got better.
you revived.
When you don't pay for a solid PR guy, you got to take it. If I could remove your visitor sticker for 1 second here. Wait a second. What's your shirt say?
Well, there you go.
He was trying to cover up the fact. I crashed on my trial run. We made a very fast racer. We got third place last year, and we got third last. I wanted to get first this year, but I crashed on the very first run because it was too fast for the braking system, and there were people right across the hay bales at the end. So
He
saved lives that day.
Well, we're glad you're okay.
Thanks.
Yes.
And
It'll
Mr.
take a
Bauer, I'm sorry that you weren't selected as the #1 celebrity, but
Top two, though. I made top two.
top 2.
Some guy named John Waters.
It doesn't seem fair, but anyway, that's it.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
So other than the fact that I have no idea what a toilet bowl race is, which shows that I've got a lot, I need to live a little bit more.
You need to get out more.
Think soapbox racers with a toilet mounted to it. Breakneck speed down Chestnut Avenue. During Hamden Fest every with the second Saturday of every year, of every September.
Really don't live enough. The only question I had, which is, so there's a conditional use authorization from BMZA, right?
Yes.
So they've approved that.
Yes.
My only question was just one of kind of logistics. You note in the application that you're proposing to have up to 6 live entertainers at one time. Candidly, I haven't been, and don't hold this against me, I haven't been to your establishment. I need to go. How would that work with 6 up to 6?
I think 6 just covers the idea of a band. It's not 6 separate entities. It would just be a group of people. And I didn't realize that I thought we would just go, hey, we want to have a band, but that's pretty much it. Like most, you can have somebody by themselves, a duo, a trio.
So the establishment's large enough to have different sections, I guess.
No, I guess he means up to 6 entertainers in one band, not 6 different groups. Yeah, that's how. Yeah. Oh, I got you. Because we're not huge. We have a patio outside and we have a tap room inside, and
Okay.
we wouldn't be able to accommodate 2. To that, we wouldn't be able to accommodate 2 entertainers.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
Did you
And I may have misunderstood the question in answering 6.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Anything further? All right. On the basis then of the application, the materials that have been submitted in support of the application, the testimony received this morning, I'd vote to approve the request for live entertainment.
I vote to approve.
I would concur.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No exhibits.
I believe that concludes the morning docket.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The
That's it,
board is
you
in
guys.
recess until 1 p.m.
I got to go train for my toilet bowl.
I'll show you if you like.
Yeah, please.
So we took.
Oh, just in time. Thank you.
It's right on us.
It's you, Harvey, right? I think you're here. Do you want to be here?
Oh, no, you got to change those around.
I did everything but that.
I mean, for the love of God.
No, did I change it? I never changed
That's not me.
Yes, it is.
Come on, don't embarrass Harvey.
Can't let you change my name.
Oh, at least mine is.
That looks like my. Who does this belong to right here?
Belongs to Dana.
I'm sorry. That's it. I have you. You got your book?
Yeah, I got my book, but I need something else though.
You need a pen?
What, a pen?
No, I'm good. I like people to call me by my name.
Oh, where my pen is.
Here, I got about 6 of them.
I want, no,
You have a special
I
pen?
want my pen.
Special. Sit on the table, I'll get it.
I got it.
It might be, it might not be. Oh, wait. But it's not. No? Okay. Okay. Maybe Xander will eat it.
Oh, yeah?
I wonder what I did with it.
You might have a real job someplace.
Yeah, my preferred pen, but it's okay. It writes really well. It's not here. No worries. It's okay.
Mr. Page?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Now begins the afternoon session of the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. In the absence of Chairman Albert Matriciani, Commissioner Aaron Greenfield will act as the chairman. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, there being no preliminary matters, the very first case on the PM docket, J. Ran Chung and So Kim, J.C. Star LLC, trading as Red Fox Liquors, 2733-35 Pennsylvania Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Here for violation of Article of Alcoholic Beverages Article 6-313, small A2, tampering with alcoholic beverage container on June the 5th, 2017. Please come forward.
Good afternoon. Before we begin, I just want to make a quick announcement. We have a couple special guests here, Ralph Moore and Commissioner Moore and Mr. Moore's grandson, Xander. And more importantly, Commissioner Moore's birthday is Saturday, so we want to wish her a happy birthday. She's turning 30 again.
Thank you.
Still have to card her.
Thank you.
With that, will everyone raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And Bryce, do you have everyone's name?
We can get them as we go. I have most of them.
Okay. Mr. Maslin, will this be an admission?
No, it's a.
Okay, so why don't we begin? If there's no opposition, why don't we begin with identifying the individuals here, and then we can get into qualifying the expert.
Sure.
Okay.
Supervising Inspector Alan Southworth from the Comptroller of Maryland Field Enforcement Division.
Okay, and if you could just come a little bit closer to the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Appreciate it. That's all right.
Supervising Inspector Alan Southworth with the Comptroller of Maryland Field Enforcement Division.
Sir?
I'm Lab Manager with Comptroller of Maryland.
What was that again?
I'm sorry, Ketan Vitlani. I'm the Lab Manager.
I'm going to have to get the spelling of your name.
Yeah, my first name is Ketan. Last name is Vithlani.
Sir?
Kevin Lee, Chemistry Supervisor with the Comptroller of Maryland Lab.
Kevin Lee?
Yes.
L-I or L-E-E?
L-E-E.
Ma'am?
Agent Michelle Mangold, Mangold, with the Comptroller of Maryland.
Mr. Maslin,
Yes, for the record, Gary Maslin, attorney Maslin, Rothwell, on behalf of the licensees. You identify yourself, please? Yeah, just put your name on there.
Yeah, my name is Shik Chong. I'm owner's husband.
First name?
S-H-I-K.
And your name, please?
My name is Jaeran Chong. I'm owner of Red Fox.
Okay. Mr. Maslin, since this is going to be contested,
yes,
I'd like to have Ms. Mangold
Yes, sir.
present the facts for us to begin.
Okay. Excuse me, the eyes have changed.
I know the feeling.
On June 5th, 2017, at 12:13 p.m., myself and Agent Southworth went to the Red Fox Liquor and Lounge located at 2733 and 35 Pennsylvania Avenue to conduct a routine license check and alcohol check and tobacco check. During the course of that, the tobacco, I had receipts for tobacco and everything had checked out fine there. Agent Southworth actually did the alcohol, most of the alcohol inspection. Spoke with him, he advised their receipts were in order. That when we went around to the other side, which was the liquor, so you have a liquor establishment where you can purchase packaged goods, and then on the other side you have like a little bar area. When we went to the bar area, Agent Southworth noticed that there were some bottles that were sitting up on the shelves that are displayed for sale, and some of the alcohol was very light in color and didn't appear to have the same color as full bottles of alcohol. We also had I guess, the good fortune in the sense that we could then go pull bottles of alcohol from the packaged goods side and compare them to see, you know, the different colors and the discoloration. And when we compared some of the bottles of alcohol, they were lighter in color and didn't appear to be the same color as the alcohol that was in the unopened packages. And based on that information, and based on what Agent Southworth saw, some bottles were taken and some analysis were done. And the results of the analysis so 17 bottles were seized, and they were seized from the top shelf of the bar area. They were submitted to the comptroller's laboratory for chemical analysis to determine the actual percentage of alcohol compared to the stated amounts on the labels of each brand. The following bottles of alcohol, your indulgence, because I'm trying to skip down to just get to the facts and not give you a whole.
And if it would be easier, if you'd like to have Mr. Southworth testify as well, and Mr. Maslin, you'll have an opportunity.
No objection.
And if you have any documents you'd like to provide as evidence, we'd welcome that.
Okay, so on, we took a total of 17 bottles. On June 7th, the chemist, Mr. Vidlani, thank you, sorry about that, Vidlani, had completed the analysis, advised me that he had completed the analysis and completed a report with the results. The Bacardi Mai Tai label proof was 10% alcohol. The results showed 11.1% alcohol. The chemist advised the discrepancy was not possible with untampered alcohol. The Fireball whiskey, the label proof was 33% alcohol. The results showed the true proof at 27.9% alcohol. The chemist advised the discrepancy was not possible with untampered alcohol. The Bacardi Gold proof was 40% alcohol. The results showed the true proof was 19.6% alcohol. The chemist advised the discrepancy was not possible with untampered alcohol. The Seagram's Extra Dry Gin was 40% alcohol. The results showed the true proof was 20.8% alcohol. Chemists advised that discrepancy is not possible with untampered alcohol. And that's a statement of the basic facts of the case.
Mr. Southworth, do you have anything else to add since you were there on the scene?
Yes, sir.
Could I ask her a question?
Sure.
How did you want it?
Yeah, no, let's, and if you have any documents you'd like to use as exhibits, we'd welcome that. And Mr. Maslin, if you'd like to ask.
Do you have the chemical analysis?
We do
with you?
in our record.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
We'll make that an exhibit, Ms. Russell.
Yeah. You mentioned this was a routine inspection, is that correct?
yes.
How many people were actually there with you on this routine inspection?
It was myself, Agent Southworth. We usually, what I've been doing in the city is I have a couple of police officers from Baltimore City Police Department. Actually, one of them will be here today, is here today. And I usually take them when I go and do my bar inspections. I've taken them on most of mine. And then a couple of other officers were there. I'm unsure of their names, sir. They came because they were interested in what we do. Officer Jones had contacted them and said, hey, the agents go down, this is what they do. If you want to be, if you're interested in knowing what goes on with the comptroller, come on down and you can see what they do. And that's kind of how it went down.
Was anybody there from the building inspection department? Your knowledge?
Did we have anybody from the building? I don't think so.
Anybody there from the health department?
No. No.
So you had yourself and about 3 or 4 officers there?
And Agent Southworth.
And Agent Southworth. And you call this a routine inspection? It was more than routine, wasn't it?
No, I didn't feel like it was anything more than an inspection. I mean, we didn't do anything more than what we normally do. We looked at receipts to ensure that the receipts matched the product that was in. I do this in every inspection.
And that was all in order, is that correct?
Correct, it was.
And you looked at their cigarettes?
I did. We looked at their cigarettes. I looked at their, we call it OTP. It's other tobacco products. That's your cigars and your cigarellas and things like that. All that was in order.
Everything was in order?
Yep.
Licenses all in order?
Yes, they were.
And they were polite, cooperative with you?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, and you seized 17 bottles, and of the 17 bottles, 13 of the bottles, there's no problem with them, is that correct?
Correct. The alcohol levels match the
All right.
the content or within a I mean, the discrepancy was, I guess, minor to none.
Now, you had a Grey Goose bottle that was tested?
Yes.
Is that correct? And that's not one of the ones you found in violation, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, but in the Grey Goose analysis, the label on the bottle was 40%, and the true proof was 39.1%, correct?
You have to let me,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah, it's correct?
That's what it says, yes.
All right, but that was found to be in compliance, is that correct?
That you would have to speak with the chemist because
All right.
he is the one that does the chemical analysis. My responsibility is just to look at something. Obviously, the chemical analysis decides whether something is illegal or legal. Mine is the basic observations, like Agent Southworth's basic observations, at which point then you take it further. If you think that something's discolored or it doesn't look right, you go and have it analyzed. Obviously, if it's fine, we wouldn't be here.
The point I
And if
make
it's not,
is
we
you
are.
didn't find that bottle to be in violation.
I did not.
Okay. There's another one that you tested, the Quezo Gold. The alcohol content is supposed to be 39%. Again, the true proof they found to be 39%. Not exactly 40%, but again, you found that not to be in violation. Is that correct?
I didn't, the chemist did.
Yeah, Mr. Maslin, let's reserve those questions if we
All right.
could to the chemist when we get to that point.
Sure. Now, do you recall my client telling you, the bottles that you seized, first of all, do you have them with you here today? Did you bring
No.
them? You didn't bring them. Why didn't you bring them?
I didn't feel I needed them.
Okay.
because we had the chemical analysis.
I understand. But there's also a physical character to these bottles that you've described.
Yes, I have pictures if you would
All
like
right.
to see
Yeah,
pictures.
yes.
For the
The-
sons.
Particularly the bottles that are in question. You have the pictures of those bottles?
Indulgence?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
While you're looking, do you remember the owner there advising
Fireball.
you that these bottles were there from the previous owner? Do you remember him telling you that?
Yes,
All right. And, for example, this is the Fireball item.
Mhm.
And what was the alcohol content in the Fireball bottle?
I have to go back, the Fireball label proof was 33% alcohol, and the test results showed 27.9.
27.9. All right. And this bottle was on a top shelf. It was a large bottle.
Yes,
Would it be fair to say that that was a display bottle?
it was displayed for sale. I don't,
Was it?
I
it
didn't
was
see
on the
him
top?
actually using the bottle, but it was, if this is the back shelf, it was up on the shelf.
It was up on
It
top
in the-
shelf.
It was displayed.
And the quantity of alcohol left in the bottle was a very infinitesimal amount, very small amount?
It's a small amount.
All right.
yes.
We'd like to offer this picture so that the board may see the actual bottle that she's questioning and the amount of alcohol that was in it.
So let me make sure I understand. Is your point, Mr. Maslin, that the bottle that was tested is the one that's
The very large
mostly
bottle.
empty?
That is exactly it.
And that's correct, that was the one that was tested. The other one is so in regards to that, we took a bottle that was from the packaged goods side to compare to the bottle,
To compare the coloring?
compare the coloring, because that's all I can do. I'm not a chemist. My whole job is to look at something and to determine whether maybe it should be analyzed for further value.
Okay.
And then, obviously, if it came back with the correct amount, or the correct percentages based on the chemist's statements, then we wouldn't be here.
I have a question for Mr. Maslin.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
What is that picture supposed to show us?
It shows you that it's it's a display bottle. And it shows a very small amount of alcohol at the bottom of the bottle. And the problem is here, it's a very old, she's testified that he told her that the previous owner had these bottles on display there, something that he inherited.
Let me ask a question, though. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I know there's a lot of documents and there's bottles, and so please.
Well, and Agent Southworth dealt mostly with the bottles of alcohol on the
Mr.
bar
Maslin, do you have
side.
any objection to having Mr. Southworth come up? Or do you have further questions?
I'd like to have some continuity.
Please,
if I
continue.
just, and then
Go
we'll
ahead.
bring him up.
Continue to- but-
Just the next bottle, there's 4, we've gone through 1. What's the next bottle that you had, that you found in?
Mr. Maslin, let's go one bottle at a time, okay?
Yeah.
So just make sure, let me just clarify something that Commissioner Jones had asked. Now, Ms. Mangold, Mr. Southworth, please feel free to respond if this question is more pertinent to you. Was it your understanding that this bottle here that was mostly empty was being used to sell to patrons in any way, shape, or form?
Absolutely. It is placed where most bars will have all their, on the back shelves where the cash register is. They're all in various different degrees of use. The issue of it is that even if something tests out close on the alcohol content, that doesn't mean the product is exact same. Or if you were to downgrade, take the Grey Goose, and you were to put a Absolute vodka, a rail vodka, and you were to pour that in there, it would maintain the alcohol content integrity if it's a good match. but it's obviously been downgraded. Even if you were to take Grey Goose into a Grey Goose, once the original contents of that bottle being used has been tampered with, it is an automatic violation. It is irrefutable.
Several things in his testimony. One, he's testifying that it's obvious to him that it was being used. That's conclusory on his part. And his statements, he's not a chemist, and he's testifying to things that only a chemist would know.
Well, we will take it all under advisement. I will say that he has a certain level of experience that suggests it, so we'll take it for what it's worth. But we will mark this as an exhibit, Mr. Maslin.
Where is the,
Now, Mr. Maslin, I'm going to allow, because of the number of bottles, I'll allow you to, ask a question and then direct it, and then if either of you are better positioned to respond, please do so.
I do want to show the exhibit for on the Crown Oil. This was one of the first that I talked to. Spoke with Mr. Chang about. Initially, when I brought this to his attention, he told me that it was a much older bottle than the one that was unopened, but the production dates were exactly the same.
The Crown Royal bottle is not a bottle that's in question. It's not one of the four involved.
Yeah, let's not, let's stick to the...
I'm talking about the coloration, and this is, it will be relevant.
Would you address yourself's testimony, most respectfully, Judge, to the four bottles in question, not the 13 other ones?
Yeah, let's focus on the four right now, and then, if there are questions from the commissioners that may seek your background experience, then perhaps we can get into that, if that's...
My apologies.
No worries, you're fine. All right, so, Mr. Maslin, please continue.
Well, I'd ask about the other three bottles, the pictures of the other three bottles.
And the other thing that I would like to add is that
Could I just ask a question and he responds, not let him have a diatribe here?
So at this point, we have the facts from Ms. Mangold. We'll allow Mr. Maslin to ask both of you questions, because you both were there on the scene. And then what I'll do, if it's okay, is if there's anything factually that you have to add, Mr. Southworth, then we'll allow anything specific from Mr. Maslin.
This is a picture of the Bacardi Gold bottle?
Yes.
Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
And the Bacardi, just to be clear, the Bacardi Gold bottle this was the bottle that was seized?
Correct.
That is correct.
All right. Once again, I show this to the board. The bottle which was seized is the large empty bottle. Again.
And the one that's next to it is an unopened bottle that we got from.
Similar to the other.
That's what we tried to do.
That's fine.
show
We
the
understand.
And this bottle appears later. Do you know when the manufacture date was on this bottle? And this bottle appears to be.
No.
They appear to be different.
Yeah, I compared the other bottles.
No, do you know? Do you know?
No, I don't.
You don't.
Skinny answering questions is a little difficult when two people are answering.
We're gonna let Ms. Mangold answer questions. If there's anything that she can't answer specifically, because Mr. Southworth had some experience specifically to the liquor.
And again, this bottle was on the top shelf, is that correct?
It was.
Sort of next to the other one that was seized?
Yeah, they were all on the shelf. I
Another-
don't have what order they were in, but they were all on the shelf.
Okay.
Is this, are you providing these as both exhibits?
Yeah, please. Okay. What's the next bottle that you found in violation?
The Bacardi Gold, Fireball, the Mai Tai. The only one I do not have a picture of is the gin. I thought I had a picture. I don't have a picture.
So the four are the Bacardi Mai Tai.
And do you have a picture of the Bacardi Mai Tai? Is this it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
again,
this one was the one that was.
the Bacardi Mai Tai issue. There's the picture now. I want to be careful that I highlight the right ones. The one that they seized was this empty bottle right here.
Well, in fairness, it's not completely empty, Mr. Maslin, but it is more empty than the others.
There's a better picture of it, if you want that.
It's the one on the end.
No, understood.
So that it's very clear about this thing. But again, that bottle was on the top shelf, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right.
And by top shelf, I'm not, if this is the back of the bar, it's probably about the back of the bar height. Shelf, staggered shelf, it was sitting, yes.
All right, okay. And you don't have a picture of the,
I don't have a picture of the gin.
the gin?
I had a picture, I do not have a picture of the gin.
I would ask this board not to consider the gin bottle, since there's no picture of it. And I don't believe that should be brought into any type of
Don't we have a picture?
consideration.
In our
It should,
files.
I probably,
It's
I'm
in our
printing them off
report.
as extra pictures, so you may have.
One second, we may have a picture.
Yes.
You
All right,
have that?
It'll appear, okay.
Thank
So
you.
this is a picture of the gin bottle that was seized.
Yes, sir.
Again, that's a relatively empty bottle, is that fair
It's
to
pretty
say?
close to empty, yes.
It's pretty close to empty.
It's down,
And-
it's got less than a quarter, it's not this much.
And was this the comparison bottle?
No, I didn't have a comparison bottle, and it's gin, so it was just light colored.
And it was
Gin.
almost empty?
It didn't have, the thing with the gin was when I opened the top and I smelled it, there was hardly any odor whatsoever. And it brought to my attention because it was no odor.
Mr. Maslin, let me try and cut to the chase a little bit. I'm sort of lost on your point about these empty bottles, because it suggests to me that they were being used and served. Perhaps I'm missing your point.
The point is, my client advised them when they came into the store that all these bottles were display bottles, displays. He did not use them at all. They came with the store, they're just part of a display on the top shelf.
So you're just so we know, your client took over, assumed the license or was a licensee to the establishment in March of 2014. So you're suggesting, I just want to make sure I understand, that for over 3 years, these mostly empty bottles remained at the top shelf?
That's correct.
Okay? Okay.
Now, when you were in the store, was there anybody in the store, any patrons in the store?
No.
There weren't any patrons there?
No, there were no patrons.
All right. There was other alcohol on the shelves, is that correct?
There was,
There was other, matter of fact, what you submitted, there was other Mai Tai bottles there
yes.
that were half empty?
Yes,
Full
there's
bottle.
there was a half empty, and then you'll see the one that's just a smaller
And
amount.
the Mai Tai bottle that you tested came back fine, is that correct?
Can I look at the, I don't,
Your photograph.
well, that, not the photographs, what I took. Did I take two? Or
Mr.
one?
Maslin, you're suggesting that one of the 13 bottles was a Mai Tai, and that was not, the chemist did not flag that?
Okay.
That's correct.
Yes, I took both.
One person at a time can speak. You need to let him finish the questions. You need to let her finish her answers. Thank you.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that in each one of the bottles that was seized in violation, you took a comparison bottle that you tested? Is that correct?
No, we just took the ones in question. We didn't take unopened bottles
You
from
took
the store.
17 other bottles.
We took 17 bottles that were in question.
All right. And of the 17 bottles, was one of them another Mai Tai bottle?
Yes, there were 2 Mai Tais.
But the other Mai Tai bottle was tested and found to be in acceptable limits. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Of the gin bottles that you seized, did you seize more than one gin bottle?
No,
Just the one, just the display of it?
correct. Just the one up displayed for
All right.
sale, yes.
Of the, let's see, the Fireball item, did you seize any other Fireball items?
No,
No. Now, Is it fair to say that there's a margin of error in this testing process, that it doesn't come
I
out
can't
exact?
I can't speak
Let-
to
we'll
the
let the,
chemist.
we'll let the
That's,
chemist address
that's what the chemist's job is. My job is to look at them, to make a decision on the street, and then to let the chemist decide whether it was out of the ordinary, percentage-wise, or it was within limits.
Yeah, those numbers, Mr. Maslin, let's refer that to the chemist, because
Sure.
to your question, most of the bottles that were seized, my understanding, based on the record, is that they weren't marginal discrepancies, not all of them. Some of them were fairly significant. So we'll ask the chemist that when we get there.
Well, there's only one, I believe, that has a
Well, okay. We'll-
significant
we'll get there.
discrepancy. Yeah. I don't have further questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Step back.
Yes, Mr. Southworth, do you have anything else to offer?
Yes, sir. For the violation, you only need to be in possession of it. It doesn't matter if it was from a prior owner.
Argument.
Yeah, let's get, just based on your experience, you being there, we'll get to that legal stuff, but I appreciate that. Is there anything that Ms. Mangold didn't cover that you wish to cover?
Just that behind the bar, within, all the products were for sale. The ones that came up within the margins and the ones that were egregious out of the margins of error. They were all on there for sale, and I can't imagine that they would have been any kind of display item.
If I could, let's ask you a question. Were all of the bottles on the top shelf that Mr. Maslin referred to and Ms. Mangold referred to, were they all mostly empty?
No, they're all within varying degrees. The ones that we took were the ones that looked like they were in question.
Okay.
Either high discoloration.
One second. Okay, Commissioners, do you have any questions? Both, let Mr. Southworth, and we'll let Ms. Mangold as well if you have questions.
The bottles supposedly are display only. Were there any type of labels on those bottles saying display only?
No, sir.
I just want to get clarity. The bottles that were seized, all 17, they were all seized from Red Fox Liquors.
Yes, ma'am.
And Red Fox Liquors is located at 2733-35 Pennsylvania Avenue, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So all of the bottles were seized from that location?
Yes, ma'am.
And that, the licensee for that location are the people that are here before us today?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chong and Ms. Kim, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
Mrs. Chong and I'm a husband.
Okay, so they were seized from is that J. Ron Chong and Sue I. Kim
Oh, Sue Kim is not here.
is not here, but Ms. Chong is here, and you're Ms. Chong's husband. So all of the bottles that were taken from Red Fox Liquors, 2733-35 Pennsylvania Avenue, and the licensee for that location, we have one of them here today, and that's Ms. Chong.
Yes,
Do I have that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything further, Commissioners, for the Comptroller's Office, at least the two agents? Thank you. Mr. Maslin, any final questions that you could think of for the two agents?
No.
Okay. Mr. Maslin, do you have any objections to the expert, whichever one or both, about them being qualified as an expert?
No, satisfied there.
Okay, you're satisfied?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so will Mr. Lee, Mr.
Make sure that he accepts them as
Yeah,
expert.
yeah. Mr. Vithlani, are you both testifying, or one of you?
I'll be the one testifying.
Okay. Mr. Lee, before we get to you, Mr. Vithlani, do you have anything to offer? Okay, all right. Mr. Vithlani, please come up. So if you could just very briefly, because I just want it on the record, even though Mr. Maslin agrees that you're an expert, just quickly provide me your knowledge, experience, education, your experience testifying, et cetera. I may ask some follow-up questions. I just want to get it on the record. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a chemical engineer. So my background in education is chemical engineering, and also I have been doing this for more than 15 years, testing alcohol and also testing fuel, so that qualifies me.
And for whom do you work?
I work for Comptroller of Maryland.
What is your title?
I'm lab manager.
Okay. How long have you been employed there?
Since 98.
Any certifications?
ASTM membership and whatnot, but other than that, no special certification.
And you have experience testifying in courts and administrative bodies like this?
Yes, I have done that number of times.
Okay, state and federal?
State.
State?
State and counties.
Mr. Maslin, any questions, any concerns?
Did you personally test each one of these bottles?
I did.
Okay, so first, as acting chairman of the board today, I find that given Mr. Maslin no objection, and based upon Mr. Vithlani's brief summary, that he is in fact qualified to be an expert based on his experience and education. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, let's allow him to provide us at least what you have observed, and then you can ask him any questions in your testing, sir.
Okay. Well, we tested, as mentioned, 13 bottles altogether, and 4 of them came insignificant. In other words, they were not within what we see as a norm. Typically, alcohol is volatile, so it loses, if you open the bottle. So we should never see higher concentration than what the label proof says. So that's why the first bottle, exhibit number 1, is in question, which is a 11.15 versus 10%. Okay? In other bottles, the proof is well below than what it should be. Even considering the volatility of alcohol, still they are way lower than what it should be.
Okay, let me try and, so first let me clarify, I do qualify you as a chemical expert.
Right.
Okay, so let me make sure I get that on the record. But let's talk about each bottle, and I'll walk you through it. Mr. Maslin, you'll have an opportunity to question after each one.
Sure.
I think that's probably the most efficient way of doing this. The first bottle that I have here is the Bacardi Mai Tai, okay? Out of the 4. The label proof was 10% alcohol. I understand that the results, based upon your testing, showed that there was a true proof of 11.1%.
Right.
Now, so it's curious to me that there's an increase in it, but please explain your finding.
Yeah. Just to correct little, it's not proof, it's percent alcohol, because proof is doubled. So everything written is percent. 10% alcohol by volume is 20 proof in theory. So 11.15% should be 22.3 proof, because proof is doubled. But here we are writing down whatever was written on the bottle. The bottle said this many percent alcohol, so that's what we wrote it down, and that's how we are
That's why
comparing.
you're an expert in
Right.
chemistry and I'm not. So you're suggesting because the bottle is mostly empty, the percentage, the proof, whatever that term is, and I'm trying to keep up with you, isn't as or it would increase based upon the.
No, that's not what I'm saying, because
Say it again, please.
Yeah, I think we were talking. You were mentioning that 10 proof or 11.15 proof. It is not proof. It is percent.
You're right. You got.
Okay,
gotcha.
it's percentage. That's what I was trying to
I guess
clarify.
my question is, it's increased from what it was.
That's right.
And so I'm trying to understand that.
So yeah, that is unusual. It should never increase, because even if the bottle is there for, let's say, a year, okay, and you occasionally open and close the bottle, if anything, it should lose alcohol content, because alcohol is volatile. So it should be lower than 10%, unless the bottle is tampered with or they put something in, past, that would increase the percent of alcohol. In other words, if it's, let's say that there's a Bacardi Mai Tai was 10%, and somebody spiked with 12 or 14% alcohol of some sort, okay? And again, it could be any type of alcohol. We really don't know. Then it would increase the alcohol content, but otherwise the alcohol content should not increase.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just so right now we're talking about the Bacardi Mai Tai, and I want to ask my questions. We're talking about the Bacardi Mai Tai. The label on the bottle said it was 10% proof, and when you tested it, it was 11.1% proof, so it was higher. What would cause the proof to go higher? What would cause it to increase?
Well,
and I'm not asking you to tell me what did. What are the possibilities?
The only possibility I can say is something was added. That's the only possibility, in my opinion.
So Okay, something was added to the bottle. Why, in your experience, why would someone do that?
I really don't know. I cannot really answer that question.
Okay. I trying to understand what might be the business reason for doing that. Selling alcohol at a higher proof than what's on the label.
Well, accidentally they might have, it could be accident. We really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically we have seen, watered down or alcohol going down
Right.
by volume percent.
Right.
So I really cannot answer that question that why would they do it?
Okay. And I know we got to move on, but from the consumer perspective, if a informed consumer thinks that they're getting 10% proof, but they're actually getting 11.1% proof, and they're drinking it, do they become inebriated faster, or is that anything that you've even studied?
Depending on persons, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the volume was very, very small on this bottle. I'm almost positive the volume was very small amount.
Meaning the bottle was almost empty.
Almost empty, yeah. There was.
And I also want to just clarify, we keep saying the term, I keep hearing the term that the bottle was empty, the bottle was empty. None of these bottles were empty, were they?
No, they were
The
not.
bottles might have had just a small amount of liquid in them, but none of them were empty.
No, none of them were empty.
Okay,
They were not empty because if they were empty, or even if there were less than 5 mils, I cannot analyze.
Okay.
So there was enough volume for us to analyze the sample.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions?
Commissioner Moore took the glory from me, but I have one additional thought here, question here. The percentage equals 2 times, that equals the alcohol. Whatever the percentage is, you multiply that by 2, you get the alcohol
Proof.
in the bottle.
That'll be the proof.
Proof in the bottle.
Yeah. So in other words, if 40% of
Proof, when you multiply and you get that proof, if it's either higher or lower, that constitutes tampering.
Again, depends because
If it goes out of that range, whatever that range is,
Yeah,
that
because-
you identified,
yeah.
does that constitute tampering?
Yes. Because typically what we do is, to further elaborate, to your question, if it's less than 2%, okay, within 2%, we give that much to make sure that we are not penalizing anybody unnecessarily. But when the volume is or concentration is higher, then we do not allow anything. If it goes down 2%, then I will tell the agent that no, we cannot really, we should not go ahead with this case.
It's a concept that if the bottle is open,
Right.
it's by
Right.
naturally, it's the natural process for it to lose some of the proof.
That's right. If you leave the,
If it's open, you should never gain.
right, that's right.
Thank you. That's why you don't give anything.
But before I turn to Mr. Maslin for any questions, so your point, anything more is likely to be tampering. I don't want to draw conclusions, but anything less within a certain margin, which gets to Mr. Maslin's question, which I'm sure he'll follow up on, which is that percentage, that marginal, which we'll get to. That is where you may not find tampering.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Maslin.
What type of equipment do you use to analyze alcohol content?
We use a distillation method. It's a distiller. So what happens is we add known volume of alcohol and dilute it a little bit, and then gradually heat it. And the vapors that are generated are condensed back into airtight container. And then we measure the concentration, because that way you are not bringing any contaminants or water. It's like around 80 degrees you will get most of the alcohol.
Now, how often do you test your equipment to determine whether or not it's accurate and reliable?
Frequently enough, but not every time that we analyze the sample. We don't do that every time we analyze the sample, but frequently enough. As a matter of fact, we did a study where we ran close to 50 samples, because there are 2 methods. Okay, there is one method is a gas chromatography method. We call it GC method. That is what we were using. And then we came up with the distillation method. So we ran close to 50 samples and compared, and it was right on. So we are fairly confident in what we do.
Is there ever an error in your testing?
I'm not saying there won't be. Yeah, there might be, but I have never. Yeah, there can be an error, but I have never come across where we made a mistake. Now, I agree with you that human error is always possible. But human error will not cause this much substantial difference. I'm not talking about the Bacardi Mai Tai where there is 1%. I'm talking about the Bacardi Gold clear yellow where the percent is 40 and it went down to 19.6, for example. And the second one is the Seagram dry gin, right?
So you can see that this increase could be attributable then to possible human error or some freak coincidence.
I mean, you can say that, yeah, you can say that, but I'll be very much hesitant.
All right.
Because like I said, 5 mils we use volumetric pipette. The percent will be more if you add more alcohol. Okay.
Could it also be possible that the manufacturer in his manufacturing process made an error in their manufacturing, causing the alcohol content to be slightly higher?
I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it because the reason is we have visited a couple of distilleries. As a matter of fact, one in Maryland, and they go through vigorous testing and process before they send the product out, because they can have multiple lawsuits in their hand if they do that. So I don't believe that that's possible.
Now, the other bottles that you had with the larger discrepancy, the lower discrepancy.
Okay, so which Ms.
What's it, the Seagrams, I believe.
So I just want to follow in order so we're all on the same page,
All
Mr.
right,
Maslin.
so
So we've talked about the Bacardi Mai Tai.
Bacardi Mai Tai,
And
the increase in that.
Let me just ask, if you have no more questions about that specific bottle, I want to make sure we do this pretty clearly here. So, Mr. Vithlani, based on that Bacardi Mai Tai and your testing, in your expert opinion as a chemist, was that bottle seized on that date and tampered with?
I believe that, yes.
Mr. Maslin, do you want to turn?
But it's possible that it wasn't based on human error.
Sure, yeah, it is possible.
All right. And the other bottle, the 33%, 27.9.
Can I just ask a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
In your expert opinion, based on your experience, training, your work in the field, and your history and experience in testing for tampered bottles of alcohol, is it your expert opinion that the bottle of Bacardi Mai Tai that was seized from this licensee was tampered with, in your
Yeah,
opinion?
Yes.
Okay, and that's your expert opinion?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
But you're not 100% positive that it was tampered with based on possible human error.
I don't believe there was any human error, but yeah, if you want to hold my hand and say, yeah, the answer is yes. There's always a possibility that there's human error.
Well, Mr. Vithlani is not a lawyer, so he's not here to say that it depends, which we all tend to do, at least some of us. We understand the point.
All right, yes, sir.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Jones has a question, I believe.
Excuse me, over here. If you think there was a possibility that there was an error, why are you charging them?
Well, because that's not the only bottle. Because there are 3 bottles which is significantly your different result.
But my question to you again, if any of those bottles, if it's a possibility that any of those bottles could have had an error, why would you charge them?
No, I believe in our ability 100%, and I don't doubt me at all. However, yeah, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say, so it's possible that my nephew, my grandson, is going to walk back in here and step up to this table and tell me that he's hungry and I need to get off this bench and go home and feed him. It's possible, but it's not probable.
No, it's not.
Do you see the difference?
I totally agree, and that's what I'm talking about, my alcohol analysis as well, that it's possible, but it's not probable, because we go and make sure repeatedly that we are not making any mistake.
And that's my point. We're not here to decide what's possible. We're here to hear about what is probable, what is more likely than not, what your determinations are based on your expert opinion. And so these questions about what's possible, and you would agree that what's possible doesn't really matter. What matters is what is your expert opinion. and the bases for that opinion. And I believe that we've received that. So I don't care what's possible.
Oh.
Mr. Maslin, let's move on to the next bottle.
Sure.
If we
I mean,
could.
it's just a generic question. You tested 13 other bottles, is that correct?
Yes.
And of those 13 other bottles, you compared the proof on the bottle to the actual proof.
Correct.
And is it fair to say that none of the 13 bottles, the other bottles you tested, actually matched the proof that was on the bottle? It was less by 1%, by 1.5%.
Yes.
Mr. Maslin, he did say earlier in his testimony, and please clarify this, that there is sometimes some marginal changes downward, if I heard you correctly.
That is correct.
Please explain that, because I think that's what Mr. Maslin's question.
I think what his point is that there were 13 other bottles that were tested, and they were found to not have been tampered with, that they were not within the margin of, or within the range of that 2%. That would have caused you to believe that those bottles were tampered with. And we're not here to talk about those 13 bottles today, except that they do sort of complete the picture that of the 17, 13 were fine, 4 were not. And because there are 4 that were not fine, that's why we're here. That's the basis of the charges, not the other 13.
Right.
Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the other bottle that was 33%, it came out 27.9, that's almost.
Okay, so that is the Fireball whiskey. I want to make sure we have,
Yeah,
right? Okay, so
Fireball.
we're talking about the Fireball whiskey.
Now, that was really close to 28%. If you add your margin of error to that, that brings us up to 30%. Is it fair to say that may have been within a reasonable range of error, given the fact that the bottle had been sitting for, was almost empty?
May I?
Please, go ahead.
Well, this 2% that we give is not written anywhere. It's just we want to make sure that we are not penalize anybody unnecessarily. Because as I said, that if you open the bottle and if you are serving alcohol, depending on how long you have been serving and opening and closing the bottle, you can lose some alcohol. So that's why we don't want to charge anybody if it's around 2%. But that does not mean that we are not sure. Even if 2% is to us questionable, but we don't want to penalize anybody thinking that, well, 2%, it's possible that they lost it opening and closing the lid frequently. So answer to your question, 27.8, it is unacceptable.
If the lid was open all the time for, let's say, 7 years, is it possible that that bottle would have lost a significant amount of alcohol content?
Yeah, it'll be lower than 27.85 if the lid was open for 7 years. It'll be less than that.
So if it was open, if the bottle just remained open for 7 years, it'd be lower than 20. But that sort of is contrary to your point, Mr. Maslin, that, I mean.
Well, it's a display item.
Right, but
if the bottle was open during this period of time, say prior to my client even buying the store, it's plausible that this variation from the 33% to the 27.9 would have occurred even not on his watch.
Well, wouldn't it also the alcohol maybe evaporate if the bottle was open for
Yes,
years?
alcohol should evaporate, yes.
But why are we even talking about that? That's a hypothetical based on facts that are not in evidence. They're not in this case. I mean, again, we're back into the realm of possible, not actual.
Yeah, Mr. Maslin, let's move this along. If we could focus on the specific bottles,
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
And the other bottles that were there, again, if the lid was off the bottle, let's say for 7 years, the one that was 19% from 40%, is it possible that the alcohol content would have evaporated 20% over that?
I really cannot, to be very honest with you, answer that question because we have not experimented on that. But in theory, yes, alcohol is volatile. If you leave the bottle, the lid open, it should evaporate, yes. But I cannot tell you by how many percent it should evaporate.
Let's move this along and let's try and avoid the possibilities because there's possibilities in every, I understand.
I understand. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other questions with respect to Mr. Vithlani and his testimony?
I have none.
I just feel like we should just get clarity. Let's just talk about the Fireball whiskey. The label said 33% proof. Your test showed that it was 27.9%. In your expert opinion, is it your expert opinion that that bottle had been tampered with?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'd like to go to the Seagram's Extra Dry Gin. The label proof on that bottle was 40%, and the actual testing showed that it to be 20.81%, which is lower. Is it your expert opinion that that bottle had been tampered with?
Absolutely, yes.
And I just want to step aside, what would cause a bottle to be that much lower, basically half of what the label says?
Yeah, as I said, they might have added some other alcohol which is lower in concentration.
Mhm.
So refill bottle, that's we think.
Is it possible that, and possible, now I'm committing the same sin. Okay, so something was added to bring that
You can join
volume
me and Mr.
down.
Maslin on Saturday for Yom Kippur. We're gonna have time.
All right. And then for the Bacardi Gold, the label says that it's supposed to be 40% proof, and when you tested it, it was actually 19.6% proof. Is that correct?
Yes,
And is it your expert opinion that that bottle was tampered with?
absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
But isn't it quite plausible that based on your expertise, that if this bottle was open for over 7 years, that alcohol content or volume of alcohol in the bottle could have evaporated down to a 20% level?
Definitely it should go down, but I cannot answer that it'll go down to 20%.
Mr. Vithlani, just in summary, in your expert opinion, the tests on the 4 bottles, in your expert opinion, that were confiscated from the establishment, were diluted with water or some other substance and were tampered with?
Yes, sir.
One more question. Do you know whether, at the time the bottles were observed and seized, whether the caps were on those bottles?
As a matter of fact, caps were on, and we also cover with parafilm. We give a roll of parafilm to people, agents and chemists, agents and inspectors, so they can also seal, put the parafilm around so that no evaporation can take place.
Okay, so, all right, thank you.
I have one last question, which is, I guess, maybe for one of the agents, in terms of when you confiscated the bottles, talk to me the chain of custody, how it got from the establishment, you please come up, to the lab. I just want to understand that.
So after the bottles were confiscated, and for the record, all lids were on bottles when we got there. When both of us were going through the bottles, deciding what we were doing, the lids were on the bottles. And from there, once they're confiscated, I took the bottles from the business to the lab, which is down in Jessup. I actually was not given parafilm until I got down there, and then at that point, we took care of doing what we needed to do with them. But that's the chain of custody. So then it went to the lab itself, and once he tested, he can testify as to what happened after that. I don't know what.
Okay, that's fine. Commissioners, any further questions?
No questions, no further questions.
Mr. Maslin, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to call my client in here. State your name for the record. State your name.
Oh, my name is Shik, S-H-I-K. Last name is Chong, C-H-O-N-G.
And your wife owns this liquor store, is one of the licensees?
Yes, sir.
And you also work there with her, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when did you acquire this store?
I don't know what you mean.
When did you buy the store?
About 4 years ago.
Have you had any violations, even before the liquor board, with any violations or found in violation of anything?
No, sir.
To your knowledge? And when the bottles in question that were seized, particularly the 4 bottles in question, where were these bottles located in your store?
Our store displays first and second and third.
And what
But
shelf were they on?
They all the way back. Because I'm gonna leave the big bottle, display bottle, because the front bottle is covered the back, so customer is not really see it, my thing, so it's previous owner leave it there, I'm gonna stay, leave it there, so.
Were all these bottles in the back there from the previous owner?
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
back?
same place, the previous owner leave it there, I'm not touching it.
You don't touch it. Do you ever serve any customer? Did you ever serve any customers out of those bottles during the time that you've been in
No,
the
sir,
store?
no.
And did you ever tamper with, add any water to, or add anything to any of the bottles in your store?
No, sir.
All right. When the people came in the store, the inspectors, were you polite, you were cooperative with them? Is that correct? You cooperated with the inspection?
Yeah.
You showed them all of your records?
Yeah.
You provided them purchase receipts for all of your alcohol?
Yes, sir.
You showed them purchase receipts for all of your cigarettes?
Yes, sir.
And they found no violations of any nature whatsoever regarding your purchases of alcohol or purchases of cigarettes, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Were there any other inspectors there at that time, to your knowledge?
I don't know. It's many guys. About 8 to 10 people is coming in our store. First time my wife stay on the store, I'm outside. So my wife is a policeman. There's many people coming in. She got nervous. So they gonna looking at the basement. It's the office. She don't have keys. So she called me, inspector coming. So I'm coming back in right away, and I'm gonna open the door, show to them. So that's all I do.
Thank you.
If I could ask some questions, and the commissioners may have some as well. So approximately how many bottles have you kept from the previous owner? And in fact displayed? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna clean off the many bottle, and I'm gonna display a new bottle because my bartender, she working she's little, so she not grab out the bag. She little bottle. That's why we used to serve a little bottle for something fibs.
But your testimony is, I want to make sure I understand this, that you did not serve any of the partially empty bottles to patrons.
No, empty bottle. We not serve to them. Serve to customer.
Okay. All right. Commissioners?
Do you have any paperwork that shows what you purchased from the previous owner? In other words, the paperwork documenting what you actually purchased from the prior owner, and that would include specifically the inventory.
We used to see receipt all the trash. I used to last month I have to keep a receipt, but it's the old one is I'm gonna.
Let me be clear. I'm asking if you have the paperwork that shows what you actually purchased from the previous owner back in 2013 when you took over this business. It looks like you purchased it or you took over March 6, 2014.
Yeah.
And there's typically an inventory, a log, a list of everything that you purchased from the prior owner. Where is that log?
Oh, I don't have that.
You don't have that?
I don't have it.
Okay. Did you ever have that showed what you actually purchased?
We people coming in, they gonna count how many in stock. They count the money is how much. That's all I know.
Okay.
First time I'm doing this. First time liquor store. So I only experienced 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know. I just want the right way. I don't want to buy anything. It's the other purchase. I'm gonna own it right way because I'm no experience.
So I mean, the way this is coming out, it appears that you're operating a bar that is stocked with bottles of liquor that are watered down. Are you understanding that that's how this is coming out? Do you understand that? No?
Or do you understand it, but you're denying it? So
You're saying you did not do that?
No, no, sir, no.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Hasn't, okay. Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Do you know that the owner of a liquor establishment, once they take possession, is responsible for all the liquor in that store, whether it be watered down or not? Do you know that they are responsible for the products, the liquor products?
Yeah, I heard that, sir.
Okay, Mr. Maslin, is there anything further?
No.
Okay, anything in summation?
Yeah, very, very briefly. What you have here, and I give all the credit in the world to the chemist in this case.
I'm gonna clear away, you see, after the inspector coming in, and then after, you see, somebody tell me, you see, water tempered, something, whatever, owners are responsible. So anyway, licensee responsible. But, yeah, I heard that.
Thank you.
Right. So he was most candid and open with this board, and I talked to him in advance of this hearing, and he confirmed to me that alcohol does lose its content over time. You have a situation where you bought a store from another individual. His testimony was these bottles were there. We have no knowledge how long these bottles were there. They were there when he got there, and it's fair to say they were there many, many years prior to his arrival at the location. And it's important to note that the pictures of the bottles demonstrate that they're basically empty bottles with very, very minutia amounts of alcohol left in the bottles. Given the fact that they do evaporate over the time, and his testimony about the fact that he did not tamper with these items, and the fact that 17 or 13 of the bottles seized came back fine within they give them a margin of error. Now, I would suggest that the one that's higher, he's indicated, and we know we went back and forth on this, how it got up. He says it's tampered with, but he said it's possible that was an error, either a human error in the testing or it was just within the margin of error. Obviously, it's not an exact science, because if it was an exact science, it would come out exact. If it says 40%, it'll say 40%. But if you look at all your exhibits and all the tests, not one of them, not one, came out right on the dot. So it's clearly not an exact science that we're dealing with here. Then you go to the credibility of my client. You have an individual that's never been before the board, to my knowledge, he's been before the board, but never had any violations. There's an inspection being done by 10, there's police officers involved, everybody's there, and it's almost like a training exercise, it seemed like. And it seemed like the agents were looking for something to hang their hats on in this case. Now, what do? They examine all his cigarettes. His cigarettes are fine. They examine his purchase invoices. Purchase invoices are fine. They examine his liquor purchase invoices. Everything's fine. You've heard my client testify. He just wants to do things the right way. He's not an individual that wants to violate any laws. He just carries himself in the way that people should carry themselves, in a dignified, law-abiding manner. I think what we have here is a situation where the alcohol content in the bottles just evaporated over an extended period of time. They're empty display bottles. It's important to note that he's testified that his bartender is a short woman of stature. Therefore, it makes it virtually impossible for her to be reaching up and grabbing these large bottles, which are basically empty bottles. Now, what bolsters, I think, more his credibility, other bottles, the comparison bottles were all there. Some of those bottles were half-empty bottles. Clearly, those are the bottles being used to sell to the public, which demonstrates, I think, bolsters the fact that that he's not using this. They were there. He bought them there. They're part of a display that he had when he bought it, and I'd ask the board not to find him in violation.
Thank you, Mr. Maslin.
Thank you.
Thank you for Comptroller's Office and licensee for your testimony. I find, based upon the evidence, based upon the record, based upon the expert witness's testimony, a violation of the Alcohol Beverages Article Section 6313A2. This, Mr. Maslin, is, in my reading, a strict liability offense, and your client, regardless of the factual possibilities, is in fact in possession of these containers. And so for that, I find a violation. We can get to the, let me hear from the other commissioners on their position.
I agree with the finding of liability and responsibility. I find the violation of 6-313. The expert testimony was that the 4 bottles were tampered with, and there's no question but that the bottles were at the licensee's location. They were in possession. So I think that the bases for finding are there, and so I do find.
And again, I also find that there's strict liability. The law is clear. He is in violation. I also find him guilty of this offense.
So Mr. Maslin, beyond what you've made the point about in terms of mitigation, the previous owner, is there anything else you'd like to add beyond what you've? And I do know for the record, your client has had no violations in the last 3 years. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. So the law is in terms of the law here, the most we can do here is a $500 fine, suspension, revocation, or all of the above. Interested in how my colleagues feel. I would find a violation of $500. Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Jones, do you have any other thoughts on the penalty?
I think it's reasonable to assume that, I am assuming, that for the most part, I think the owner of this establishment has been pretty well in alignment with the law. These cases of tampering, it's there, it's clear. 4 years, this owner has never been before us in reference to a violation. I'm inclined to agree that a $500 fine would be sufficient, and I believe that he or she needs to be aware that this is the first time, and they should take heed not to let this happen again.
It's the first offense, so we are limited, but I find this a really offensive offense. And, having found the violation, the tampering with the bottles, it's really is an offense against the public. It's an offense against their clientele. It's an offense against the consumers that come in at purchasing liquor. And I make note of where this bar is and who the customers are, and find it extremely reprehensible. And we're limited in what we can do. The most that we can do, as I understand it, is a $500 fine. We can close. We can impose some period of closure. They've not been before us on a violation, but they were before us on a revocation of the license, and that was just this year. And we voted 3-2. It was myself, Commissioner Greenfield, and the chair voted to renew the license. Something's happening here. I mean, that for the community to come into this board and try to protest the renewal of the license suggests to me that there are issues in the community. And add that to the fact that the bottles are tampered with is really, really concerning. I certainly agree with the imposition of the $500 fine. I would impose a 1-week closure in addition to that. And that's me speaking my conscience, given what I feel is just an extremely offensive offense.
Commissioner Jones, do you have any thoughts on the $500 fine and a 1-week suspension?
Well, I'm standing at the $500 fine,
So-
based on what's before me now.
Okay, so we're gonna, it'll be $500 fine. I am troubled too by the offense. And this is an unusual case because we don't see these cases at all. I think this is the first time this, or at least this commissioner has seen a tampering case. But based upon the lack of any other violations, based upon your client's testimony that this was purchased, again, it's not a legitimate excuse, purchased by a previous owner, it'll be 2 commissioners for a $500 fine.
Thank you very much.
Suspension, but please don't come back to us on a violation. Please don't.
No, I'm sure they won't. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Exhibits.
30 days to pay?
Jones,
30
next
days
to
to
you.
pay.
Exhibits need to be called in from that side.
Pardon me?
She's gotta call the exhibits.
Board Exhibit 1, Comptroller's Report, Agent Manigold. Board Exhibit 2, Field Enforcement Assignment Sheet, Confiscation Sheet, and Chemical Analysis. Licensee Exhibit 1, Photo of Fireball Alcohol Bottle. Licensee Exhibit 2, Photo of Bacardi Gold Bottle. Licensee Exhibit 3, Photo of Bacardi Mai Tai Bottle. And Licensee Exhibit 4, Photo of Seagram's Gin Bottle. Thank you.
You too, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Easy, fast.
You too, thanks.
You too, Ms. Moore.
Take good care.
Take care. Jones. Shaky. Wake up.
Calling the next case, Uzo Nuoso and Obifule Uwandake. Sorry about that. Uzo LLC, trading as Goodfellas Lounge, 4919 Bel Air Road. It's a Class B beer wine liquor license. Violation of Rule 4.05A, prohibited hours. Violation of Rule 4.05B, prohibited hours. Violation of Rule 3.02, cooperation. A violation of Rule 3.09B, restroom facilities and health organizations. All those who will testify in this matter, please step forward. Be prepared to be sworn in if you're going to be giving testimony.
For the record, Melvin J. Kanensky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the licensee.
Good afternoon. Would everyone raise their right hands?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Kadinsky, will this be an admission?
Will not.
It will not be an admission. Okay. Detective Gatto, would you like to take the lead on presenting the facts?
Yes, sir. Detective Abraham Gatto, Baltimore City Vice Unit. On the 18th of this would be February 2018, at 0200 hours, myself, Agent Chris Malice, Detective Greenhill, and 2 members from the Baltimore City Housing Unit were accompanying us as we were investigating a possible after-hours complaint in reference to Goodfellas, which is located at 4919 Bel Air Road. While we were making observations, we waited in our vehicle from about 9 after 2. We saw patrons in and around the area, at which time we exited our vehicle. Agent Chris Malice and Detective Greenhill went to the rear of the location where there was a door. Myself and the 2 members from the housing department went to the front door. At this time, we started knocking on the door to try to gain entry. I could hear people and music playing on the inside. I could also hear my colleagues, Agent Chris Malice and Detective Greenhill, knocking on the rear door, trying to gain entry. It was told to me afterwards that they were able to hear people inside the unit. We knocked and knocked and knocked on the door, got no answer. Around 2:15, I finally got an answer at the door in the way of 3 patrons, 2 males and 1 female, opened the door and immediately asked me, after seeing my garb, tactical vest, Baltimore Police, my name, my badge, are all displayed, "Can we please leave?" I said, "Of course you can." So that's a key point of my testimony is I was able.
I'm going to object as to what a key point, that's really for the board to determine.
We'll
not
take it under advisement.
Yeah.
Again, it's a key point of my testimony where I was only able to gain entry to this facility because there were patrons wanting to leave. Because up until this point, 209 to 215, I got no answer, neither did my colleagues. As I got inside, at this time, there were 3 other patrons inside the facilities, along with the 2 gentlemen who were here, the licensees or the managers. My observations when I was inside, there was 1 female seated at the bar, and there were just a scatter of beer bottles, 4 approximately, on the counter. They were being cleaned up by staff members at this time. I didn't observe her consume any of those bottles, but they were on the counter. There was also food plates on the counter. At this time, Agent Chris Mouse and Detective Greenhill were able to walk around and come in through the front door that I gained entry through. Agent Chris Mouse and I were able to meet with the licensee and the owners who were present today. It's at this time that one of the licensees was pretty upset at us finding the possible violation, and made it very clear that he did not feel that they were serving after hours. At one point, it got a little bit loud, and one of the other licensee who was present told him to just calm down a little bit. There since have been apologies for this situation because it got a little bit carried away, but sometimes that happens when there's alcohol possibly involved. I'll leave it at that. Briefly. At this time, we gathered necessary information, licenses, names, photo IDs, paperwork that was there present on the with the bar. Took note of it, and that's all I have to testify as far as what I did. I'm sure my colleagues have more to testify on.
Mr. Gudensky, do you want to ask
Sure.
the detective some questions, and we can go?
Yeah. So when you said you got there at 2:09, how do you verify that you're there at 2:09?
Well, actually, I said I got there at 0200, and I observed the location and only left my vehicle at 2:09. And I have my phones, multiple phones, which are linked to the internet, and it gives the exact time.
All right, so then when you approached the door, did you at any time call the establishment? You had multiple phones.
Oh, that's something that I don't
Well, the question
never
is, did
do.
you or did you?
No, I didn't. I felt knocking on the door, since patrons, that's how they enter, would suffice.
And, but there was no calls made. And you say, this is the police, we want to come in?
No, I mentioned that many times.
When you were knocking?
Yes, sir.
In a loud voice. Tell us how you did it.
Baltimore City Police, could you please open the door?
Music was playing. You said music was playing?
I could hear it through the door.
Okay. And you could hear people talking?
I could hear them talking.
Okay. And it was you, and who else was with you?
So if I could hear them talking,
No, that's not, I'm asking the question, you're going to keep going on here. Who else was with you?
2 agents from the Baltimore Housing.
Who were they?
One is named McGinnis, and I do not know the name of the other.
Are they present here?
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're not. When we do the social club task force, they're used for certain things like hookah lounges, so they were just present at the time. And then also, as I earlier testified, Detective Greenhill and Agent Chris Amalis.
But they were in the back?
Yes, they were in the back.
And have you ever come in through the back?
No, sir.
Never?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you enter the establishment through the back? I mean, the licensed premises, or is it where the kitchen is?
Well, if there's a portal there, I'm sure people can walk in and out, so.
Question is.
My assumption is you could probably enter those doors. If
Yeah,
there's a
but
portal.
let me, but the testimony also was that there were others that were in the front door,
Okay.
okay?
He was at the front.
At the back door.
The back door, so
Yeah,
they're both
okay.
right.
And they were
All right.
trying to get in but couldn't access.
We don't know that yet till they
Okay,
testify.
that's fine.
And then McGinnis was there, and another HCD. They stay or they leave?
Baltimore Housing was with me.
And they stayed the whole time?
Yes, sir.
But they're not here today?
No, sir.
All right, eventually somebody opened the door, and,
Patrons,
yeah, how do you know they're patrons? Tell what.
because they asked me, could we please leave?
Okay,
And that's what I testified. I want that to be clarified.
no, I got that. Tell me what their names were.
Their names are not with this case because they wanted to leave. They were locked inside the establishment.
You say they were locked inside the establishment.
Well, the doors were locked. I couldn't enter, and their first question was, can we please
But
leave?
you never got their names.
I didn't. Their names at that point were not
The
important.
question is,
because-
you didn't get them, you didn't get them. That's all, it's easy.
I just want to, what's the relevance to this?
No, the question is, the first line of investigation is who, what, where, and when, and why. If you're investigating something, that's the first question. Who are you? What are you doing here, and what's your name? None of that's been happening there. I'll go on after that, okay? When you eventually made it.
Detective, when you entered the establishment, were there other patrons there?
There were, and as I testified, my goal was to get into a bar that was operating after hours. I wanted to see if things were being destroyed, being poured
That's the
out.
problem when you ask a question. You keep going on in this thing. I mean, I'll.
No.
I'll
I'm just trying to
keep doing
understand
it.
the relevance.
Okay.
So let's ask some questions, let's answer them, and let's go forward.
So when you, after those three people who you claim are patrons, who you don't know who they were, left, how many people were in the bar after that?
As I testified, we had 4 other patrons inside the bar.
And I'm going to ask you
Once-
their names at this point, and you're going to tell me, who are they?
I do not have any documentation of any of their names.
And how long did they stay in the bar?
Well, once we took access of the bar and we determined who was employees, who was licensees, and who was not, we then asked the people to leave.
All right, and after those people left, how many other people were there?
Approximately the 2 gentlemen standing here, and then maybe 2 employees, maybe bartenders, if I remember correctly.
And you said there was food platters.
Say again?
You said food platters?
Yes, there
were
were
food
some
platters?
food items on the bar that were being picked up and taken to the kitchen.
All right, and at the same time, there were some, you thought were alcoholic beverages. They were sitting 4 bottles of beer, you said?
Yes, 4 bottles of beer.
Empty, full?
There was alcohol inside them.
All right, did you test it at all? When we went through this whole thing before about testing.
No, I did not have
Okay.
comptroller
All right.
people with me. No.
All right. And what did you do with those bottles?
Those are discarded
Okay.
once it's seen
Okay.
that they're.
Who discarded them? Did you discard them? or
No, I did not.
The people who were the licensee?
That would be the staff that they have there that's trying to bustle,
All right.
pick things up.
All right, and you indicated that the bottles were sitting there in the bar, there was some food on the bar. Nobody was consuming that you saw? There was
Not
no
that I
sales
saw at the
made?
time.
Okay, all right, so, and at that point, you ran into one of the licensees who was very upset.
Yes, I did.
And he was upset because he thought that he was being unfairly targeted, or why was he upset?
He felt that he was not operating after hours, but
Okay.
the time was clearly after 2.
But nobody was drinking after 2?
That I cannot say nobody
You
was
didn't see
drinking
anybody-
because
you didn't see anybody
right.
drinking.
Just let
Okay.
him finish his answers. I think it would be better that way.
As I testified, there was still alcohol on the counter, but of course, no one's going to be consuming that in front of me.
Well, see, that's what the reason you asked that question. They go in, you add things. Nobody didn't see anybody was drinking.
Do you want to
Okay.
testify today? Or do
I'm
you want to ask
only
questions?
asking questions I think should be pertinent to the
Then
record
ask a
when we
question.
go on.
Then ask a question.
Was anybody arrested?
No, sir.
All right. And was there anything else happen other than discussions with one of the licensees that was otherwise uneventful?
I will not say that for a fact because there's more people that need to testify here.
Well, as far as your observations.
As far as my observations, yes.
I have no further questions.
Agent Chris Mollis, Chief Inspector Fossler, is there anything Inspector Howard, is there anything you'd like to add?
The only thing I would add is the reason we were there is because of the previous observations from Agent Howard, so.
Yeah,
It was the week prior, so just to keep everything in a timeline.
And I appreciate that. Agent Howard, I do note somewhere in the record, and please, I want to ask you about this. Well, go ahead. Let me allow you to testify. Go ahead.
Okay. On,
Use the microphone. Let me use the microphone, Agent Howard. I mean, you can.
excuse me, Agent John Howard, Baltimore City Liquor Board. In response to a 311 complaint of operating after hours,
What date are you talking about here? Not this date?
No. He's gonna testify to a previous date, I suspect.
Well, can we
He's gonna
tell
get
us?
to it. He's gonna get to it. Let him finish, Mr. Kudensky. I know. I know you're in a rush.
I'm just trying to.
Don't talk to him, talk to us.
I got the same report, though, and I see what the,
Let's let him finish, and you'll have every opportunity to ask him questions.
Okay, on, let me see, where was that? Did I put the thing? The response to a 311 complaint, I visit this, I visit them, excuse me, wait a minute.
Let me ask you some questions, Mr.
I
Howard.
put the date down in my report.
Did you visit this site before the date of these alleged violations on February 18th?
Yes, sir, the week before.
The week before. Do you recall the specific date? If I told you that the specific date was February 12th, does that ring a bell? Is there anything that prompts?
Yes. Well, that's the date I have, incident date.
So can you testify to that incident date, please?
Yes. February 12th, 2000. That was on the. Yeah.
Chief, would you, yeah, please. Please.
Okay. Chief Inspector Mark Vassar, we have received 311 complaints. I went to the establishment on February 11th, 2017, earlier in the evening, and I went in, advised the licensee of the 311 complaints. I explained to them, can't operate after hours, et cetera. After visiting the establishment, Agent Howard was on duty, responding to 311 complaints that night. I called him, instructed him to go by the place, observe the place at 2 a.m. or after. So now, after 2 a.m., now it's February 12th. And that's when he went to the establishment and observed what he observed. Okay? I'll let him take over
Please.
from here.
Thank you.
Okay, on that evening, I forgot.
That's all right, that's okay. There's a lot going on. And we missed the judge, who really keeps back.
Well, approximately 1:45 that evening.
On February 12th.
February 12th, correct. At approximately 1:45, I rode up, I went past there, and I parked my car across the street to, operate, to observe the closing of the establishment. I saw cars parked out in front of the place, in front of the business, and at 2 o'clock, I didn't see anyone coming out. So I walked over, I knocked on the door, I could hear people inside, but, no one answered. So I stayed around and I saw cars coming up and people going around to the rear. So I just walked around to the rear, and this was, a little after 2. I went around to the rear, and when the door was open to allow, those patrons in, I walked in with them. And at the time when I got in, I identified myself and told, and explained to them it was approximately about 20 or 30 people in the establishment. And since I was there alone, I just, I instructed them that, advised them that they, needed to be closed, and the only people that should be in there after 2 o'clock were employees. And this gentleman here, I forget his name, he said, he understand and he would, let them out. And in lieu of violating them, I just gave them a warning.
Okay.
and told him, you know, that, and I left, and then I gave my report to Chief Fosler, you know, and they followed up.
Mr. Knatsky, any questions?
It's real simple.
Okay.
In your report also said you were there the night before,
Yes.
and that you didn't see any illegal activity.
Well, no, I didn't.
Okay, fine.
No, I didn't.
Nothing further.
All right. Mr. Chrisomalis, do you have anything further to add?
I'll carry on with February 25th, 2017
Please.
Violations. So when February 25th, 2017 at approximately 1 a.m., I, Agent Chrisomalis, while on duty working with the Social Task Force, consisted of the Baltimore City Vice Unit and the Baltimore City Health Department, conducted...
Can I just make an objection for the record on
Sure.
that? My objection is that this matter came up before the protest renewal and was heard by the health inspector and everybody here. And when I issued all that was brought out, and there should be a collateral estoppel here on this going further, because that whole issue with regard to health department, how long they were closed, and the people testified and that they took care of everything, was brought out in the April 27th hearing.
Well, I'm going to deny the objection. Some of these factual items were in fact brought into that discussion. However, your client was not charged in that hearing with these violations.
But I'll finish right here. But he had to defend himself with something that when the report was made at the April 27th hearing. So in fact, it was heard by the board and part of their decision-making. Okay?
But for the record, his license was renewed on April 27th, right?
And I really thought it should be, but
We conducted an inspection at Goodfellas located at 4919 Bel Air Road in the city of Baltimore, state of Maryland. Once we arrived, the health department conducted an inspection of the kitchen and the bar area. I conducted a compliance check to the facility. The health department violated the establishment with over 50 violations and ordered a closure. The establishment was to remain closed till the violations were abated until the inspectors re-inspected the location. A closure sign was posted by the inspectors, explained the violations to the manager owner, and we left the location without any incident. And we have with us the health department inspectors to be able to clarify the violations that were issued.
can I just ask you, who wrote the report?
The report I just read, sir?
No, the report from the health department.
The inspectors that are here to
What's the name of the
testify.
inspector?
They're here to
You know-
testify.
you don't know her.
I
Okay,
know
never
her
mind.
first
That's all
name,
right.
but I don't think that's relevant. I have them here
I don't
to
know what's
testify.
relevant
Please,
anymore.
ma'am, please come up. Your name for everyone, and repeat it twice, because I want to make sure everyone hears it. Yeah, you can.
Okay. My name is Melanie Clark.
Okay.
I'm the sanitarian that was on site, in addition with Madupe Akintomide and Patricia Valls, our supervisor, who is not here.
So can you, Mr. Chrisomalis referred to February 25th and some of the health department inspections that I, based upon our record, shows that ties into a violation, alleged violation regarding the restroom and health regulations. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, we did the routine inspection, and we found, like you said, approximately 50 violations. 5 of which were considered critical violations in our book, which result in closure if they're not corrected on site. Those included improper food temperatures, ready-to-eat over raws, foods that were not cold held properly, foods that were not hot held properly, and their main refrigeration unit was out of temperature as well. The restroom, I'm going to find it. As I said, there are a lot of violations, so I'm trying to locate the one related to restroom. There were no paper towels in the dispenser in the restroom. That specific violation is not reason for closure. Reasons for closure are critical violations, which were the raw foods above ready-to-eat foods, improper handling with foods, so handling money and then handling food, improper cold holding temperatures, improper hot holding temperatures. Those are the ones that general unsanitary conditions as well.
And you closed the establishment. How long was it closed for?
Approximately, I want to say a week. They were reopened on March 2nd.
So they abated it. They abated those.
They abated those violations, yes.
Mr. Knansky, any questions?
You were saying that, do you do routine inspections at 12 o'clock at night?
With the task force, we do routine inspections for facilities that are not open during the day.
Do you know they were not open during the day, or don't you?
Yes, we do know that they're not open during the day. We reach out to them and try to contact them to get them to open.
You
If
contact
we don't get in touch with them, then they are put on.
You called them?
Not specifically, the person in charge, the inspector that is in charge of that area
So what time
attempted to contact
what time do
them.
you think they opened?
What difference does it make what she thinks?
What time do you think they opened?
It's not a facility that I inspect
Normally
daily. It's a facility I inspect on task force.
And you were there until 2:14?
Yes.
After hours?
Yes.
Okay. And after that, you talked with the owners?
I did not talk with my supervisor spoke with the owner.
Who was your supervisor?
Patricia Vols, who is not here.
Whose signature is this on the report? Person in charge?
The person in charge of the facility. One of these gentlemen.
One of these, all right. But it says inspector, print.
Right.
That's you there, Melanie Clark?
Yes.
Okay. And you said they were closed about a week and then they reopened after they met
Correct,
all the
they're
criteria?
right. Yes.
And at least one of you testified here on April 27th to the same thing, didn't you?
No.
Neither
We were
one
not
of you.
here on April 27th.
You're sure you weren't, nobody was here on April 27th to protest the renewal, for
She's
the
speaking
record?
for herself, and she said she wasn't here.
Do you know if
And you
anybody
asked her-
was
you-
here?
What you said was the two of you testified.
No, I asked her if
and
she
said-
testified.
And she said no.
Do you know if anybody was here from the health department on April 27th testifying?
I cannot speak to that.
All right. If I told you as part of the record, you wouldn't know. Okay, no further questions.
All right, Commissioners, do you have any questions for any of the inspectors, the detective? He's still here.
With
Go ahead, please.
With respect to the health code violations, they were closed for 1 week. Was there a financial penalty? Was there a dollar penalty
Yes,
imposed?
when they're closed, they have to go through a reinspection process. They have to come in for an office conference, pay a $100 reinspection fee.
And did they come in for the office conference?
Yes, otherwise they wouldn't be able to be re-inspected.
Okay. So closed for 1 week, they paid the $100 conference fee, re-inspected, and then allowed to reopen?
Yes.
All right, and have you been back since?
No.
Or the health department?
Not that I can speak
Not
to.
that you know. Okay, thank you.
Do you have a process for an immediate fine for any of your violations?
Process for critical violations?
Yeah, any type of fine.
Any type of violations, if they can be corrected on site, that is satisfactory. Critical violations that can't be corrected on site, they have to be closed.
But you don't fine them monetarily?
No, not unless it's a repeat violation or something that's considered a repeat violation that was told not, a notice was put in place for them to not do it.
Is this the first time you ever had to close them down, the health department close them down?
This is my first experience with Goodfellas, so I can't speak to if they've been closed before.
Do any one of you know whether or not the health department ever closed them down before? Okay, thank you.
No questions.
No questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knansky, would you like to call?
What's your name and address to the record, please?
Uzo Nwasu?
And you're the licensee?
Yes, sir.
And you were there on the February 18th, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
All right. And when the police officers came in, was anybody consuming alcohol, drinking or alcohol being served?
No.
And there were some people on the premises, correct?
Yes.
All right, what time do you have last call?
1:30.
And then do people stay in there after 1:30 until they finish their drinks or until you get them out of there, is that correct?
Well, we at 1:30 we do last call, and then they're allowed to finish their drinks and wait for their food.
Mm-hmm. Now, you say wait for the food. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything to me. What does it mean?
We have a kitchen, so they place orders, and sometimes it gets crowded. But we let them know that they have to be out of the building. But at the same time, they paid for their food, and they just wait for their food.
Okay.
And the lights are on. There's no bartender. Security is paid and left, and that's it.
All right,
It's
and
me
you,
at home.
can you have any explanation as why, when they were knocking on the door, nobody opened the door? Wait a minute, no. Yeah, I'll bring him on. So you have no explanation for that?
No.
And you were you the one that was upset with the police officer?
Yes, I was.
And then later on, you sort of...
I apologize.
You
yeah.
patched up with him, okay. You were upset because, what was the reason why you were so upset?
I was upset because I really do not operate an after hour. I know the type of neighborhood I'm in. I'd be crazy to run an after hour.
Okay.
It's impossible.
And then, is there times that you let people out in little batches so they won't congregate out in front?
Yes, for their safety, and also they don't congregate, so I bother Kim.
Okay. Board have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I have, so, pronounce your last name for me, sir.
Nwasu?
Nwasu.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, you testify that you don't allow after hours. My concern here is that roughly a week before, you had two different inspectors come to you within a series of maybe, 3 hours and tell you about some 311 calls, as I understand, as well as this closing time issue. And further, Detective Gatto testified that when he came into the establishment, regardless of the patrons leaving, there were individuals that clearly were not employees in the bar. So that doesn't, to me, that's inconsistent with what you're now testifying to. Please explain that.
Yes, okay, so the people in the bar, there were honestly 5 or 6 of us. It was me, him, the chef, Xavier, the 2 ladies that work in the kitchen, and a friend of mine who lives in New York. That's it. There were actually more of them than us in the bar. The lights were on, there was no music playing. That's what really made me where after hour? How? No bartender, no security. The bottles were on the bar and also on the table. Nobody was drinking. Just wait for their food. So the previous week when he came, he told us, listen, because we used to do last call at 1:45.
Wait, let me cut you off. Why are they waiting for their food at 2:09 or whatever time? That's what I don't understand.
I've asked Mel the same question. I don't know, I'm not sure about the food part of it. Sometimes somebody could order food maybe at 1:36, 1:37. I don't know how long, because the kitchen is small. Sure. Or they didn't like it or something. I don't know. But it's not a consistent thing, okay. Right? And the inspector told us, listen, don't do the 1:45 last call, make it 1:30. And that's what we've been doing ever since then.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Defer to Commissioner Jones.
I only have one concern. 2:30 is closing time. Do you understand that? And you're understanding, 2 o'clock is closing time. Do you understand what closing time means?
Yes.
In reference to the food product and the alcoholic products, the patrons. What do you, explain to me what you think that means.
Okay. My understanding is that at 2 a.m., you cannot sell or consume alcoholic beverages at the establishment. About food, I'm not sure. And I did ask Mel, and he told me that's for a later day. I don't know. But we do not sell alcohol after 2 o'clock. We don't sell food after 2 o'clock. People wait for their food, and it's packaged and given to them at whatever time. But not, because I have to go home, he has to go home too, right? So I'll admit, I'm not very sure about food. If the liquor license means at 2 a.m., we can't give somebody their food. That's the only gray area I have.
Well, it's not a gray area.
Yeah, well, I think it's more about, my sense is that there's at 2:09 or 2:15, whenever, there were beers on the bar that were not, that were clearly, there was alcohol left in it. I think that's really as far as I'm concerned, the bigger issue. Commissioner Moore?
I really don't have any questions. I think the record has been made, and it's pretty clear what happened. So I don't have any questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Namso Wakankwo.
You were there on the premises, right?
Yes, yes, I am.
Spelling, right?
Yeah, you're not Mr.
Oh, no, Waneki, no.
All right, what's your name?
Namso, Nomso.
N-O-N?
Nom, M as in Mary.
Okay, last name?
OKONKWO.
The question was asked, and the licensee about, why did somebody didn't answer the door? Were you up in front? Could you give an explanation why nobody answered the door when they were?
Actually, when they were knocking at the door, nobody knows exactly who was knocking at the door. At 1:40, 1:45, once I closed with the lights on, we locked the door for people that were trying to run in late. Like, yo, please, can I get a beer? It's not 2 o'clock yet, whatever. So 1:40, the door's locked. Only people that's in there, whoever getting their food and leaving. I has the key in my hand. So when they were knocking at the door, my sense is, oh, hell no.
But you hear him say it was police?
No. If he had said it was police and called his name, I would have let him in. This is not the first time with me. And Johnny know I would have let him in. So when he said it was police, that the Baltimore police, these people don't know. The people that he met at the hallway was 3 couple with bags of food in their hand. Once I opened the door, not them, because I had the key. When I opened the door, let him out. He rushed in, first thing out of his mouth, everybody stepped back. So they went on the wall. He said, everybody step back. The lady said, we're leaving. I said to him, whoa, what's going on? Then I saw it was him. Everybody stepped back. They came in, it was at least 7 or 8 of them. Like scattered everywhere in the whole floor. He was sitting all the way in the back. I was standing on the floor, 2 people standing up. The bottle, they say they saw at the bar area, the bar was already closed. We cleaning the bar, picking up bottles from other tables, bringing up everything on the bar to get to the trash. We empty the bottle, whatever I left in the sink, and throw in the trash. Whatever left in the sink, and throw in the trash. So we pack all the bottles and put them all in one place. We haven't gotten into that area yet when they came in. So it wasn't, I cannot be doing no after hour with 5 people in the bar, with no security, no bartender, no music.
Okay, any questions?
Yes. What is your job at Goodfellas?
I'm actually his eye when he's not around, when he's in the
You're
office.
his eye? What is your title?
I'm basically running it.
You're basically running it.
Till he gets there here.
All right, but he was there that night.
I'm there every day.
No, he.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, and you said that he was in the back.
Yeah, sitting in the VIP area.
In the VIP area.
With a female friend, it was 2 of them.
Was he drinking?
We were done. We were done. No, he was drinking. Was he drinking?
Was he drinking?
No.
All right, so the VIP area, where is that in relation to the back door?
Kind of in the middle.
In the middle?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Either way, whoever knocking on that door, once I lock it, it's not coming in.
All right, so the doors were locked from the inside, so no one could get in.
Because no one can get in.
And no one can get out.
No, when they're ready, we can leave. But if I leave it open.
Let me stop you right there.
Yes, ma'am.
If someone's ready to go and they want to leave, do they need you to come unlock the door?
Yeah,
or do they just walk out?
No, I will unlock the door.
So they can't leave unless you unlock the door, is that correct?
When they're ready.
When they're ready, you unlock the door and you let them out.
Yes.
So you said that security had already left?
All of them gone.
All right, and so it's your practice to let security go at what time?
Security leaves at 1:50 at the most.
1:50?
Yeah.
But okay, all right. And there were still people in the bar.
5 of us. Me, him,
No, let me
the
stop
kitchen.
you. Let me stop you. There were 5 people when the inspector and the police department came in.
Yes.
But there were actually other people because when you unlocked the door, they left, and then the police department came in. There were 3 people that had their bags of food, right?
Yeah, at the hallway, leaving.
Right. So that was 3 people, right? So we're now to 8, because 5 plus 3 is 8.
5 that he met inside when he came in. He said, he said.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I was really just focusing on the people in the bar.
Okay. Besides, there's nobody in the bar area. With these people he talking
Well, the
about.
owner was back in the VIP area, right?
That's not in the VIP, but cheers.
That's the bar. Come on. Come on, guy. I mean, don't do that.
I mean, he said bar. I'm thinking you're thinking of a bar area with the drinks.
In the establishment for which there is a liquor license for the whole place,
Understood,
right?
yeah. Yes.
So I'm concerned about the whole place.
Understood.
All right. So you've got the owner in the VIP area with a lady, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you got 3 people who had purchased food, and when you unlocked the door and the police department came in, they said, "Can we leave?" So that's 3 people, right?
Okay.
And they left.
Yes, ma'am.
And then after those 3 left, there were 5 patrons or 5 people somehow associated with the bar that were still there, correct?
ma'am. Yes,
So that's 8. 3 plus 5 is 8. So I'm ready for my granddaughter's homework tonight, her math homework. And then there were drinks on the bar that had not yet been discarded, but were in the process of being discarded. Do I have that? And your owner, who's behind you, is nodding yes. So the answer is yes. Okay. All right. I think I got the scene. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is there anything further?
Nothing further.
Can I ask one of the inspectors, whoever's appropriate, short answer, the cooperation piece, that's the licensee's been charged with cooperation. I understand that they were upset initially. Can you speak to, I understand they also came back and seemingly sincerely apologized. Can you speak to that, please?
Mr. Uzo was very aggravated and not very cooperative on the original night when we went for the after hours. The following weekend, when we went back with the health department, he was very apologetic. Apologized multiple times about his actions, and he was extremely cooperative on that night. And then, even though the health department had just finished closing him, he was very cooperative.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Skidetsky, anything summation?
It's both for none of the information so far sustains 405A or 405B. I think the officer was fairly candid. He didn't see anybody drinking or consuming alcohol. 405A said a licensed and permitted person, including an employee, patron, family member, or an employee agent to consume alcohol on the premises during the hours in which alcoholic beverages are permitted. There's no evidence of that. B says alcoholic beverages may not be served, dispensed, furnished, or given away. There's no evidence of that. In this case, the best you have is that there were 4 bottles of beer that were sitting up there that explained that they would be discarded, but they were not being served, dispensed, or furnished, or given away, and there was nobody consuming. So 405A and 405B, the testimony is given is not proven. The cooperation, I think, was explained the way the licensee was a little upset about the situation. Certainly, there was a lot of people that came in there. It seems to me, you saw the further case before you, where like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people come into your place late at night like that. When you have HCD people coming in and you have inspectors and so forth, you can get a little excited. I think their practice was that they do sell a fair amount of food there. People wait for their food. So if they're waiting for their food, is different than sitting there drinking and consuming alcohol. Lastly, with regard to the health thing, I still maintain that was a big issue that came up during the protest renewal. If I have to, I'll get the record. It was brought up, it was discussed at the time. It's also discussed that the place was closed for a week, and everybody thought that that was, substantial type of penalty with it, and they had to reopen. I don't want to keep beating that dead horse, but it seems like that was part of it. I don't know that I have to do that, but that's my argument.
Thank you. So based on the evidence, I find that, well, first of all, I'm troubled that agency staff visited the licensee twice a week before to give them warning about, some of these issues. So that's of concern to me, and still we flag them on these violations, particularly the prohibited hours. What I heard was the licensee or his representative cleans the bar at a certain hour. I think he said 1:45 or 1:50. In this instance, it seems to me, based upon the testimony from Detective Gatto and others, that the bottles were still on the bar, and there was alcohol in those bottles well after 2 a.m. So based on that, I find a violation of Rule 4.05A, and I do believe that there were either employees or patrons drinking beyond the closed time, as well as I find a violation of 4.05B because they were in fact furnished, provided, etc. I do not believe there's a violation of 3.02. I do believe that again, this is, we'll hear from the other commissioners. I believe that the licensee was sincere or was apologetic, understood it, and I don't expect this. Hopefully this will never be an issue again, should it be, never expect him to be uncooperative. I also find but I do find a violation of Rule 3.09B. So those are the findings that I find. Commissioner Moore?
I also find a violation of 4.05A, 4.05B, and 3.09B. I also find a violation of Rule 3.02 with respect to cooperation, and here's why I find that. You had police department and inspectors at the front door and at the back door identifying themselves as inspectors and officers from the Baltimore City Police Department, and yet the door was not open and they were not allowed in. The only way that they gained access was because customers wanted to leave, and someone from the inside unlocked the door and let them in. That alone is sufficient for me to find cooperation. By your own testimony, by the testimony of everyone, the night of the incident, there was something difficult that happened. It sounded like things escalated. There was a suggestion that alcohol was involved, and that's consistent with the owner being in the VIP area with a guest. So, the apology after the fact is appreciated, but on the night of the event, there was not the level of cooperation that's required. And the argument that 5, 6, or 7, people that came in is the grounds or the reasons for the lack of cooperation, that to me is a reason for there to be complete cooperation when you've got, 3 agencies of the Baltimore City, coming in, and you'd already been forewarned. You've been warned twice. You would expect a high level of absolute cooperation, but it was lacking. So I do find a violation of Rule 3.02.
Mr. Jones?
I also agree with Commissioner Moore. The police officer identified himself, even if you were upset when they first burst through the door. The police officer identified himself. I mean, I can see that immediate level of anxiety, but it should have calmed down, and the apology should have been before he left. So, plus a situation that could possibly inflame the behavior of other patrons in the store or workers. So that negative mannerism could have caused something great, and I agree that that's a violation. So I agree that all violations charged here today are guilty.
So, Mr. Kudinski, in mitigation, anything you'd like to comment on other than what you've already stated?
They haven't had any prior violations at this location. They have otherwise, if there was a problem location, they would be here again. Since February, you haven't seen them here, having any problems with the health department or anybody else. I think the issue with regarding it is a sort of an issue with regard to the food versus alcohol. Prohibitive hours only applies to alcohol, doesn't apply to the food issue, but that's something separate. I know that's a cause of concern. A lot of people have late night restaurants. If somebody orders, they don't get it. Can't have them stay down on a payment. I'm not arguing that point at this point.
Thank you. So I would impose for the violations a total amount, which is what we're only allowed, because it is a first violation. The most we can fine is $500. I would find a violation of $500. I would note that you were closed for over a week already. You did abate those health issues. So I would just, at this point, impose a fine of $500.
I would like to get some clarification from Mr. Akras. Is it $500 total or $500 for the first violation, and then we can go higher for the additional violations?
It's the way it's been interpreted is that it's $500 total for the first violation. The counts are separate counts, but the counts will be considered by the law as one violation total.
So, there's been a finding of liability on 4 counts, and are you saying that the most that we can impose is $500?
For the first time, yes. This is the first, for this first.
Well, right. So, Okay. What else?
Are there any past violations on this property, Mr. Akers?
On this, hold on, I have to check.
On this ownership?
We, none for this ownership. When we, Mr. Commissioner, when we do our checks, we take a look at just the current ownership.
So I can't do 500, 500, 500, and 500.
Yeah,
I can only do 500. But we can also impose a period of closure?
You can impose a period of closure if you'd like. Fine, suspension,
Okay.
or revocation.
Revocation. Ooh. I'll go with the $500 fine total.
I'm a little lost here. Is that $500 per violation? You got 4 charges here. You got 5 charges here.
It's one violation, Commissioner Jones. We've got 4 separate counts.
Let me look back at this. I misread something here.
No, but however, if I may?
Yes.
The one thing that I am noticing, and this is actually true, these are all separate days. There is a difference. So let me take a step back. There is the 18th, and so I apologize to the board. The 18th, there are 3 violations, correct?
1, 2, 3.
The 25th is a second violation, would be considered because it's a second, actually, instance.
Right, so based on that,
Well, let me tell you where I am. I'll just step out there. So there's 3 on the 18th. You know, nothing happened on the 11th, and there was no violation charged on the 12th. We roll up to the 18th. There are all these 3 findings. Come back on the 25th. There's more. So certainly for the violations on the 18th, I would impose the $500 fine. The problem that I have, I'm wanting to impose an additional fine for the health violations. You were closed for a week. You paid the $100. It's tempting to impose an additional fine, but what we've done in the past, and I don't think you should be treated any differently because there's precedent, is to not impose penalty on top of penalty when the health department has already, or another agency has already imposed a penalty. You deserve it, but our precedent is to not impose an additional penalty, and I'm going to be consistent with what our precedent is and not impose an additional penalty.
I concur.
so the fine is a total $500 paid within 30 days plus an administrative fee. And please, please, please communicate with the inspectors. If you have any questions, they can be your best friends or worst enemies. We're really trying to be here to help you. So,
Yeah.
Can I call exhibits for the record?
sure.
Board Exhibit 1, Investigation Report, Agent Howard, dated 2/12/2017. Board Exhibit 2, Investigation Report, Agent Chris Amalis, dated 4/3/2017. Board Exhibit 3, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Gatto, dated 2/18/2017. Exhibit 4, Investigation Report, Agent Chris Amalis, dated 3/20/2017. Exhibit 5, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Baltimore City Health Department Report, Melanie Clark, dated 2/25/2017. Exhibit 6, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Gatto, dated 2/25/2017. Thank you.
Okay.
Chris O'Malley.
Right. I am so hungry. I should have eaten.
Ready to call the next case?
Yes, he just went to the restroom.
Right.
Are we waiting on him, or?
Yes, we should.
Hope he comes back with the baby Ruth.
Pardon me, Madam Commissioner, do you want to take a 5-minute recess?
No, because I have a problem at the other end. I got to get the granddaughter at the end, so.
Got 15 witnesses
I need to rock and roll.
That song, hey, Mr. General. What are you
Should have
talking
gotten
about?
something when I was.
I'll let you play through. It's gonna be another hour.
What's the next case?
Whatever Mr. Acker says.
Huh? Yeah. I'm doing an admission. I mean, they're gonna
Oh,
object.
right.
We try the case. I'll try it then, if that's what you want to do, okay? Come on.
Let him play through.
No.
Let's make everyone 2 hours instead of an hour.
All right, well, then I'll go sit down then. Should I go or should I stay?
Should I stay or should I go?
Trying to help you. What?
Now we've lost Tom.
You want me to say some things to you in Greek, do you? Okay, I didn't think so.
Here he comes.
All right. Pepper's Lounge, stay in order.
Well, they're complicated. Okay. Okay. No, they're fast.
Should we do
No, let's just roll. I'm good.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
I love that baby. Oh, that baby.
We should talk about it. We should. I don't disagree with you.
I was like, pick him up and hold him.
We're ready.
Hug him. He's tired.
Yep.
I was like, just
Calling the next case.
stay.
Pardon me. Soon Se Hyun and Soon He Shin, H&S Incorporated, trading as Pepper's Lounge, 5440 Reisterstown Road. This is a BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. It's a violation of Rule 4.20C, small double I, Class BD7 licensees, open and operating taverns at all time. All individuals who are parties in this case, please step forward. If you're going to be presenting testimony, please be prepared to be sworn in.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fogelman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman Pro Tem, Commissioners. Always good to see you. This is going to be a denial, but it'll be a very brief hearing.
Okay, well, we'll hold you to that. Can everyone raise their right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Detective Gatto?
Detective Abraham Gatto, Baltimore City Police Department Vice Unit, at 5/17/2017 at 22, actually have 22:20 hours. Myself and Detective Greenhill, and at the time Agent Cornicolis, along with an undercover from my unit and an undercover from the Liquor Board, we're conducting LBD-7 checks in the Northwest District of Baltimore City. This time, our two undercovers entered the location known as Pepper's Liquors, which is at 5440 Reisterstown Road. When they entered the location, my undercovers asked if they could use the rear tavern area to have a drink. At this time, a employee, I believe was by the name of Hung Soon Jun, replied and stated there was no bartender on duty, so the bar would not be accepting any patrons. Hearing this response, our undercovers exited the location, notified myself, Detective Greenhill, and Agent Cornicolis. And at this time, we entered the location and advised them of the violation. Detective Greenhill actually spoke with the management more than I did, so he can testify to any greetings there. All events occurred in Baltimore City, Maryland. Nothing more to testify to.
Commissioners, any questions?
None.
No questions.
Mr. Fogelman?
Very briefly, thank you. Detective Gatto, you were not actually in the facility when the buzzing to get in went on, right?
Just on the outside watching. I can observe, there's two doors and there's windows, so I can observe everything that my undercovers and usually the bar area, what they're doing.
You can't hear what's being said.
No, I can't. No,
but
it's
you
only a
can
visual. You're right.
So what you saw was the Inspector Perez and Detective Akinwande get buzzed into the bar.
Yes.
And then the door closed, and after that,
Well, no, they're not buzzed into the bar. There's a you have a packaged goods with a tavern, and they're asking permission to use the rear tavern area. If they're not going to be able to use it, they're not going to be buzzed into anything. They're denied at the window.
Okay, so your testimony is that they never made it into the bar?
Right, that's the reason for the LBD 7 violation.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Detective, would you like please testify to your observations, experiences, et cetera?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. On that day, and the day in question, I would enter the location with with Inspector Perez, and we asked to use the bar, and we were notified that the bar was closed because there was no bartender. But if we wanted to come back later on, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. The clerk went on to explain that if we go back to the bar area, we will not enjoy the experience because there are no DJs or patrons, and Friday is a better day to come and access the bar.
Commissioners, any questions?
No questions.
All right, good afternoon, Detective. Is it your testimony that you never were able to enter the bar area?
That is correct.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Okay.
No questions.
No questions here?
Thank you.
Please, go ahead.
Briefly, I'll call David Kim. I'm sorry, Daniel Kim. I can't read my own writing sometimes. Mr. Kim, you are the assistant manager at the establishment?
Correct.
Yeah. And you did employ a Mr. Jung, who was the subject of the incident here?
Yes.
All right. Where is he today?
We can't get in contact with him.
All right. When did he cease employment with the establishment?
Probably like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, yes.
All right. And what is your understanding of his whereabouts, just very briefly?
Well, he had a medical emergency, like surgery, so he had to step out of town.
All right. And he went out of town to a hospital, and have you spoken to him since then?
As far as I know, Emory in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. And he worked for you for how long?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. And you were not present during this incident, isn't that right?
Correct.
All right. Nor was Miss Soon Si Jin or Mr. Si Jin, right?
Yes.
Okay. What were you told by Mr. Jung as to what happened that night?
Well, he told me two undercovers. Well, he didn't know they were undercovers. 2 customers who tried to enter the bar. He buzzed them in, but what I heard is, why is nobody here? That's what the customer said, and Mr. Jung said, our bartender's sick, and so he said he can bartend for now. But there's no. Usually Fridays or weekends are busier. That's what he said. Yeah.
Right. So, you're assistant manager. Do you understand the policy of Rule 4.2?
Correct. I've been working there for like 7 years. I know what's going on. You know what the liquor board does. I experienced it before. So yeah, I'm aware of that.
How many people do you normally have on premises at all times?
Weekdays 2, 3, and weekends busier hours like 4 or 5.
So you have at least. Just tell me what their roles are. You have one cashier.
Cashier, stock, inventory, and we have a bartender.
A dedicated bartender.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right, I have nothing further. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kim, if I could, can you explain to me you walk into the establishment, what do I see? So is there a window?
We're behind a glass. It's like an L shape. So, and you see the bar section, and you see the beverage section. But in order to enter the bar, someone from behind the glass has to buzz customers in.
So the only way to access the tavern portion is to be buzzed in?
Correct, or the outside, the rear window, the side from the building, yeah.
And do you know how many individuals were working that evening?
2 up front and 1 in the back.
Where's the back? What's the back?
Someone was stocking the back, and Mr. Jung and one other, his name is also Mr. Kim, was up front cashiering, which along with the bar.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I have nothing.
Commissioners?
Oh, sorry.
No questions.
And just based on their questions, Mr. Jung did tell you that he did buzz them in.
Correct.
But that was the extent of it, that they did not actually order a drink, and that they asked where customers were, where the
Yeah,
bartender
why is it
was.
so quiet? Yeah.
Right, but that they never actually ordered a drink or attempted to order a drink.
I don't know that. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what they ordered, what
No problem.
conversation was held. Yeah.
Thank you, nothing further.
Okay.
I'll submit, obviously, I'll have some mitigation.
Detective, can you, we don't have the luxury of having Mr. Jung here, so can you can you explain your interaction there with Mr. Jung? You walked in, you asked to go to the tavern. Please explain how that
Absolutely.
transpired.
On the day in question, I walked in with Detective Perez. It's, like it's explained, it's an L-shaped setting. I believe there's one entrance, but it's an open area. There's no buzz into the area. There were a couple of patrons before Detective Perez and I were served. When I walked up to the clerk at the front desk, I asked if the bar was open, the same way we ask every other sting that we conduct that night. And the conversation that he gave me was basically what I testified to, that there was no bartender, and that if I go back there, I wouldn't have a good time. I was not buzzed in. Inspector Perez was not buzzed in. I didn't know you could get even buzzed into that area. So maybe there was miscommunication, but once we were denied access to the bar, I immediately left and notified LC Greenhill, Detective LC Greenhill, and Detective Gatto. So we didn't get buzzed in.
And the final question, I think you've been asked this before, but you do not show up at these establishments wearing a balaclava, isn't that right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, because I don't think I would let you in. So.
And I wouldn't be
Sorry.
let in. I understand that clearly.
Thank you, Detective. I'll submit.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners, any questions?
No questions.
Based on,
Yeah, no, I'll just wait till you have your finding.
thank you. Based on the evidence in the record before us, I find a violation of Rule 4.20C, little 2. Commissioner Moore,
I concur.
I concur.
mitigations?
Yes, thank you very much. Ms. Soon-Si Jin has owned the bar for 26 months. August 2015, I believe she took over. Mr. Kim has worked there before and after her, or during her ownership. This bar is pretty exceptional. Not only do they know the law, they do everything they can to comply with the law. They have had routines done of the establishment since this date. When was this? May? What was this? I'm
It was,
sorry.
May 17th.
Yeah, so they've had routines done since then. They even had a routine done when the hearing notice was delivered, and and inspectors are finding the bar open and operating. Additionally, I'm going to just throw this into the record. They passed 2 random tobacco inspections, one as late as June 1st of this year, and just by happenstance. And you'll know what I'm talking about in a minute, 'cause sometimes I get lucky. In this case, just yesterday, Douglas Page sent a letter indicating that they had passed a recent alcohol compliance inspection.
Well, I assume you're making this point because Doug does an exemplary job.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now you'll understand why I say that sometimes people get lucky. Maybe I get lucky, but they earn it. And what they've earned is the respect of the 4100 Hilltop, the Hilltop 4100 Neighborhood Association. I have a letter here from Minerva Eaton, the president of that association. And more importantly, I have her here live in person. And she sat through 2 hours of violation hearings. I was scared she was going to run off, and she's still here. And I know she'd like to say something on behalf of the licensees, if we can. I have a copy of her letter for each of you.
Ms. Eaton,
And one
please.
for the record.
Can you hand me that? Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to take this time, well, my name is Minerva Eaton. I'm president of Hilltop 4100 Neighborhood Association. I've been president for 4 years, but I've been a member of Hilltop 4100 Neighborhood Association for over 20. Peppers has been one of our biggest supporters in the neighborhood, and we have several events with the youth and with the seniors because Hilltop is made up mostly of senior residents. So when we have our back-to-school festivals, in-kind donations, monetary donations, they are one of our biggest supporters. When the children have to go on trips, they sponsor the trips for the kids, and just, you know, we try to have a relationship so they can still be in compliance with the federal, state, and local guidelines. So we make sure our rapport that we have, they always come to us when they have problems in the neighborhood, and we discuss it and we work together. And my meetings are held every fourth Monday of each month.
Ms. Eaton, thank you. And just as an aside, please feel free to reach out to our office because the commissioners often go to community meetings.
Yes.
To meet with the community, so we're always willing to do that.
Yes.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions?
Do they come to your
Oh, yes,
community
they
meetings?
do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Eaton.
I would just ask that you consider a small fine and let them go back to trying to make sure they comply with the law and be good neighbors.
So based upon the record, Ms. Eaton's testimony and her letter, which will be received into evidence, and it seems to me that this is a good establishment. Mistakes happen. It's a good establishment, good corporate citizen, work well with the community. I would find a violation of $150. Commissioner Moore?
I was going to recommend that we suspend all fines. I mean, not often do we get an establishment in violation, and you get the president of the organization to come forth and speak so highly of them. I want to continue, and I want to express my support that they would continue to do what they're doing and give them a little bit sensitive, also the warning, not to come this way again. And I would recommend that the fine be suspended.
Okay.
Do you want to?
You know, thank you, Commissioner Jones. That makes things a lot easier. I would join you with that. Thank you. Commissioner?
I'm going to join, and I guess we'll call it the Eaton rule. Going forward, it is extremely rare that there's a violation and then the community comes in and rallies. And that only happens because you are a good neighbor, you're a good partner, that you walk with the community, you understand the community, you are of the community and working with the community, not doing things to the community. And you know, the violation was clear. You know, obviously it happened. It seems like it's a one-off. I'm sure, I really pray that it doesn't happen again. But we'll impose the Eaton rule and suspend.
So, no
Suspend the fine.
We will have an administrative fee, but I would also echo what my colleagues have said. I mean, you've only had this license for a little more than 2 years, so it's really a testament to your working closely with the community and addressing and helping them out. It means a lot, so thank you. And it's unusual to have in a violation this kind of love, so thank you. 30 days to pay the administrative fee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
All right, take care. Yeah.
We have exhibits. Ms. Russell will call the exhibits.
Call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, investigation report. I'm sorry. Investigation report, Assistant Chief Inspector Karanakolis. Board Exhibit 2, inspection report, Assistant Chief Inspector Karanakolis. Board Exhibit 3, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Gatto. Licensee Exhibit 1, Certificate of Compliance from Tobacco and Sales Enforcement. Licensee Exhibit 2, Letter of Compliance, Baltimore City Liquor Board. Licensee 3, Letter of Support, Hilltop Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
That's it. Talk.
Yes.
Calling the next case, Sharjah Anand, 5302 Frankfurt LLC, trading as Tusker Lounge, 5302 Frankfurt Avenue, is a BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. It's a violation of Rule 4.20C, small double I, Class BD7 licensees, open and operating tavern at all times. All parties present, please step forward.
For the record, Melvin J.
If you're going to be giving
I'm sorry.
testimony, please be prepared to be sworn in.
For the record, Melvin J. Kanensky representing the licensee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kadensky. If everyone could raise their right hands.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This will be an admission.
Thank you, Mr. Kadensky.
That's you.
You want a way of mitigation, I can give you some history that, in this case here, the licensee for various times in the past year had gone back and forth to India. There was a health and serious problems between her and one of her in-laws. The individual was there operating. It's not of no excuse that they didn't let him in, but they've been having a very high problem there with drug dealing, coming into the bars and going in the back. I've explained to them that anytime the bar is open, they have to the liquor store is open. They have to have the bar open, and if they want to go ahead and close the liquor store, they got to close the bar. They cannot. And then people have to come in and be able to order a drink. She's been a licensee since 2014. So if you know the area, you know the type of situation is in that area with the Northeastern Police Station.
Mr. Chrisomalis, anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, so this is a case of violation, alleged violation, admitted violation of Rule 4.20. Detectives went in to access the tavern and was not permitted. So based upon the admission and the record in front of us, I'd find a violation of Rule 4.20C, little 2.
I agree. I concur.
I concur.
Since you've provided us mitigation, I would, this is the second violation for this licensee. There was one previously on January 21 of 2016. I would find a violation of $500.
I concur.
I concur.
30 days to pay.
I'll give it to you, Mr. I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, investigation report, Inspector John Chrisomalis. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Department, Detective Greenhill. Thank you.
I got you.
Excuse me.
Okay. Call the next case, Seon-Ju Lee, Bacchus Bar and Liquors Incorporated, trading as Bacchus Bar and Liquors. 1220 West North Avenue is a BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Violation of Rule 4.20C, small double I, Class BD7 licensees, open and operating tavern at all times, and also a violation of Rule 3.09B, restroom facilities and health regulations.
If the commission, please, Frank Solis, representing the licensee.
Good afternoon. If everyone could raise their right hands.
If Your Honor,
Detective, right hand? Other right. There you go. Thank you.
the commission, please.
Swear or affirm.
Ms. Park is a certified court interpreter.
We'll get to that, sure. Yeah, we'll get to that. Everyone-
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And you are, ma'am?
Park, H-E-A-P-A-R-K.
And could you swear her in as a...
Do you swear to translate these proceedings between Korean and English and back from English to Korean, or actually the other way around, excuse me, to the best of your ability?
Okay. Mr. Shawless, will this be a contested or admission?
I'm sorry.
Will this be an admission or contested?
I guess we're going to admit, we'll stipulate to the statement, but then we'd like to explain it, so I guess that's.
So you're suggesting an admission and then mitigation, in mitigation?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right. So the facts before us, just for the record, is detectives, inspectors were seeking to access the tavern portion of a BD7 and was not permitted. And similarly, on the same date of March the 30th, there's a violation of Rule 3.09B, where staff entered the premises and observed the restrooms needed paper towels, toilet paper, and soap. So I find, based upon the admission, the record in front of us, I find a violation of Rule 4.20C2, as well as a violation of Rule 3.09B.
I concur.
I concur.
Mr. Shawless?
Now, and mitigation.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Lee took over, she's a surviving spouse. She took over this operation. Her husband died, and January 14th, 2015. She took over the operation in April of that year. She had not worked in that store, and she had no previous experience at that time. So this was new for her. Since the time she took over the store, this is the only time she's been charged with any violation. Calling attention to the night in question, she was not present, but her employees were. She had 2 employees. She does have and has pictures, if you'd like to see them, to show that she has a bar that is in total compliance with the charges. She has a bar with stools, with no barrier, and with the bartender available. There is a door, a second door that you come in where you're buzzed into the bar area. I also have a film, if you'd like to see it, that shows where where a patron came in, called the gentleman behind the packaged goods part to come out. The patron was in a wheelchair, and he got up out of the wheelchair and stabbed the employee with the drill, which is just recently, a couple of weeks ago. Also, since the period of time as regards the bathroom, there's been 2 inspections by the liquor board, and I have those inspection results, if I may.
Yes, thank you.
But getting back to the night in question, the employee that answered the door for the detectives, and the reason he didn't buzz them in, he did not say that we don't have a bar, because I have the picture, so they do have a bar. What he said was, the bar's not open now. Why wasn't the bar open? I can get her to testify if you want.
Your proffer.
There was, the pipes were frozen, this was in March, and there was a hole in the ceiling, it dripped down. Same reason, there's 2 bathrooms. If they had looked in both bathrooms, they would have found toilet paper and soap in the one. But there was a hole in the ceiling in the hallway, right over the bar, and right before the bathrooms, that had water in it and hadn't been fixed yet. So that's why it was there. But she has never had a violation.
Well, Mr. Schultz, that's not true based on our record. So I do want to try and discuss that. I want to. There is a record that we have of.
I understand.
Of a violation. You just said that there are no violations.
For her.
Well, who is the current owner of?
She is the current owner.
Wait, so
This is Soon Jolie.
Okay. So are you suggesting that these previous violations were under some other ownership? Her husband.
And she was not working in a place for anything else at that time. All the other violations are prior to April of 2015 when she took over. At least that's what I read, and I have them right here.
So, looking through, is Mr. Ackers here? Yeah, okay.
For the corporation. It's the corporation.
She may be the surviving spouse.
The corporation itself.
Yeah, but what we're being told is that there's a corporation that owns the license, and she's a surviving spouse. So all of the violations are with the same licensee.
Well, I mean, if you want to say that, of course, yeah, there's previous violations.
Okay.
But, I mean, she was never there. She didn't operate the place. She came in April. She got her TAM certificate at that time, which is on record at the liquor board. She didn't know anything.
Okay.
So
on that point, Mr. Schultz, you may want to discuss that offline with the agency in terms of the ownership issue, because she's a surviving spouse, and I know there are timeline provisions and there's certain things that you have to address through an estate process. So
well, I'm in litigation anyway, so.
I know, I'm just raising it as something to try and avoid. Okay, so based on that, there is a history, as I said, and it's not a great history. I do take your point, Mr. Shawless, that this was primarily owned and managed by her husband. So,
If I could only add, this is a lady who was trying her best to survive. When her husband died, she had to sell her house. She lives in an apartment now. She's not making out real good up there. She came to me and I had submitted an application to downgrade the license to a packaged goods. Couldn't do that because the Transform Baltimore Code, right there where she has changed it from business or B2, I think it was, to an office residential. If I downgraded, she would have lost it altogether. There's just nothing here. But she has operated this place just like it's supposed to be under the law. I mean, her husband may have been a bad actor, but she's in the patriarchal society. She had no control over that. She wasn't in the store, didn't work there, nothing.
Mr. Akers, can I ask you a question? So she's still, explain to me, my understanding is that she's been, because she's a surviving spouse, she's been on the light, owns that history? Explain that.
So, do you want me to testify or do you want me to state it from here?
I'm fine with you staying there.
Okay, so the corporation, and this is in Attorney General opinions that have been published, when it comes to liquor licensing, the corporation owns the license. The record of that particular location is ascribed to the corporation. So if it's Jane Smith, John Doe, whomever is an officer or licensee of that corporation, they own that particular record. So in this instance, the board could take into consideration the past history. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I can't argue with that, but, you know, most of us here have a wife, right?
No, I
We've
don't.
got to consider it. You have a husband.
But
What a husband he is. He's a great husband, and I'm really thankful to have him.
Went on record and say that.
He's a great husband. I mean, he's a wonderful man.
Smart lady.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, and I understand your mitigation, and I understand the full scope of what happened and how it is that she's even in the business, and that's for something that it sounds like you're trying to advise her on how to exit the business, and so I get it.
The store's even up for sale as we speak.
Okay.
We appreciate
There's no
that.
buyers.
Okay.
What do you think, Commissioner Jones?
I'm going to rest with what you guys
Okay.
already stated.
So,
Wonderful husband.
So, yes, Mr. Moore's a good husband. So, based on the evidence, based on the finding of the violations, I would impose a fine of $375 for Rule 4.20C2 and a fine of $375 for Rule 3.09B. So a total of $750 plus an administrative fee. Commissioners?
I concur.
I concur.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I encourage you to meet with the staff and figure out what issues. I presume you're working on it, but we're here to help.
We'd have to change the corporation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, let's call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Investigation Report, Agent Chris Malice. Board Exhibit 2, Inspection Report, Agent Chris Malice. Board Exhibit 3, Baltimore State Police Department Report, Detective Gatto. Licensee Exhibit 1, Liquor Board Report dated 5/17/2017 and 6/26/2017. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work.
Thanks, guys.
We're done.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
See you, Harvey.